Hello everyone. Welcome to our 55th Tawheed Halaqah. The date is the 10th of November 2025. We are on chapter 7. This is quite a long chapter, so we didn't go through all of it. So we didn't finish the whole chapter. We were about just under halfway through. Actually, about halfway through. And it's chapter 7. God is the one that is worshipped. We're on page 62 at the top, and this is in the new edition, volume 2. So I'll continue reading. So essentially, if you recall from last week, there was a number of texts, and this is going to be a summary. So the aforementioned texts, especially those of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah and the Imams who preceded him, such as Al-Razi and Ibn Sina, invalidate the widely used Wahhabi definition of the Al-Ilah, which is Al-Ilah huwa al-Ma'bud. The God, deity, is the one who is worshipped. The additional claim that this is somehow according to scholarly ijma is a bare-faced lie, bordering on a great slander. Writing in his epistle entitled Kalimat La ilaha illallah, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab said, know that Al-Ilah huwa al-Ma'bud. The God deity is the one who is worshipped. This is the tafsir of this word as per the ijma of the people of knowledge. Interesting to know that they did the old ijma game back then as well. Okay. Whoever worships something has taken it as a God besides Allah, and all of that is false except for one ilah, God, and he is alone, blessed and almighty. Similar appears in the work entitled Aqidah al-Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab al-Salafiyya wa Atharuha fil Alam al-Islami. Then the Shaykh, and it's an extract from that book, then the Shaykh said, answering some of those he addresses, so consider, may Allah have mercy on you, this, and ask about the meaning of al-Ilah, as you ask about the meaning of the Al-Khaliq, the creator, and Ar-Raziq, the provider, and know that the meaning of Al-Ilah is the one who is worshipped. And this is the tafsir of the word as per the ijma of the people of knowledge. Whoever worships something has taken it as a god instead of Allah, and all of that is invalid except for one God. He is Allah alone, the blessed and exalted. There are two further citations of note within his works where this appears. And know that the meaning of Ilahu al-Ma'bud, this is the tafsir of this word as per the ijma of the people of knowledge. Whoever worships something has taken it as a god instead of Allah, and all of that is invalid except for one God. He is Allah alone, the blessed and exalted. It is an ijma among them that al-Ilahu al-Ma'bud, contrary to what grave worshippers and those like them believe in the meaning of Allah, and that He is the creator or capable of creation or similar expressions. You will also find in Bayan Kalimat Tawheed wal Rad Allah al-Kashmiri Abdul Mahmud by Abdurrahman ibn Hassan ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Also, the grammarians, the ulama, scholars, and mufassirin exegetes, among others, unanimously agree that al-ilah huwa al-ma'bud, and that Allah's right upon His servants is to worship Him, and it is not permissible for anyone to worship anything besides Allah whatsoever, and that what is negated in kalimat al-ikhlas, the statement of sincerity, is that everything that is worshipped besides Allah, whether it be a human being, a king, a tree, a stone, or something else. Now, this is your commentary. I would argue here that Abdurrahman ibn Hassan ibn Abdul Wahhab repeated his grandfather's lies about a purported ijma in the most heinous and impudent manner. Glory be to Allah. This is a great slander, like grandfather, like grandson. Salih ibn Abdulaziz al-Sheikh said, this is a commandment of Allah, the sublime to all messengers and all people. Worship none but Allah worship none but Allah is equal to there is no God but Allah. Hence, by equivalence, al-ilah becomes the one who is worshipped, and al-ilahiyya, godhood, is al-ibadah. La ilaha illallah, meaning la ma'bud illallah. None is worshipped but Allah, meaning do not worship anything except Allah. The mushrikeen understood language and understood the meanings of speech in the time of prophecy. when they would say when they were told to say La ilaha illallah, it was a call to embrace this statement. They understood that it meant abandoning all other gods' deities and not directing any of their actions towards any of those gods' deities. The words of Saleh ibn Abdulaziz and al-Sheikh about equality or equivalence between two sentences from the Quran is a unique approach, and I don't think it was used before. However, he made a mistake here and reached an invalid conclusion, as we will explain in a separate chapter, among other serious Quranic equations. Even the renegade and heretic Miao himself, I'll be abbreviating Abdul Wahhab to Miao, yeah, that's his initials. Him and heretic Miao himself realized some of this, but the compounded ignorance or evil desires and stubbornness, or both, blinded him. So he did not complete the path and unsurprisingly turned back on his heels. Given that he was stubborn, heretical, extremist, he took his opinion seriously and considered it to be the absolute certain truth. On the other hand, he was overconfident, claimed purity of soul, and considered himself the best of the people of his time. On the other hand, he classified the rest of the people as mushrik and kafir. So there was no person upon Tawheed left in this world except him. Indeed, in his word, Kashf as-Shubahat, he said, if you know that the meaning of Allah is the Al-Ilah, the God, and you know that Al-Ilah is the one who is worshipped, then if you call upon Allah or sacrifice to him or make a vow to him, then you know that he is Allah. However, if you call upon a being, a created being, whether good or evil, or sacrifice for them, or make a vow to them, you have claimed that they are God. Whoever took Shamsun or Taj as a god for a short period of his life knows that the children of Israel knew when they worshipped the golden calf. When it became clear to them, they were horrified and said what Allah mentioned about them. When, with much wringing of hands, they perceived that they were doing wrong, they said, if our Lord does not forgive us, does not have mercy and forgive us, we shall be the losers. And that's in Surah 7, 149. It was mentioned in the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha, Al-Ikhlas, and Al-Mu'awwidatayn by Miao. If you know that the meaning of Allah is Al-Ilah, the God, and you know that Al-Ilah is the one who is worshipped, and then you call upon God or sacrifice to him, or you make a vow to him, then you know that he is Allah. If you call upon a good or evil creature, or sacrifice to him, or make a vow to him, then you have claimed that he is Allah. It is hardly surprising that the renegade and heretic Miao would turn back on his heels and go astray. He completely lacks knowledge in mechanical sciences such as philology, mathematics, and logic, because it is as if he was saying, if not explicitly, whoever practices logic practices ignorance. May Allah forbid that. As for the science of philosophy, according to him and his heretic and misguided innovative sect, these are all the evil handiwork of the devil, such as magic, astrology, and chemistry. Allah forbid that. Perhaps the Wahhabis sought help from what was presented in the tafsir of At-Tabari upon this matter. Abu Ja'far said, as for the interpretation of Allah's statement, exalted is He, Allah, it has the meaning in accordance with that which was narrated to us from Abdullah ibn Abbas. He is the one whom everything serves and which every creature worships. And that to which Abu Qarib narrated to us, he said Uthman ibn Sa'id narrated to us, he said Bishr ibn Amara narrated to us, he said Abu Rawq narrated to us from Ad-Dahak from Abdullah ibn Abbas. He said, Allah is the possessor of al-uluhiyya, divinity, and al-ubudiyya, the quality of being worshipped, above all of his creation. Thus, if someone says to us, does the name Allah have a triliteral verbal root, fa'ala yaf'alu, upon which this proper name is based, it is said in reply, there is no indication that this verb has been used within the Arabic language, but by istidlal, inference, it has one. If it is said, what indicates that al-uluhiyya is al-ibadah, and that al-ibadah is the one who is worshipped, and that the name Allah has a triliteral root. In reply, it is said, there is no disagreement among Arabic speakers over the soundness of describing a person's intense worship and quest for that which is Allah, that which is with Allah, exalted in his remembrance through the words so and so ta'allaha. An example of that is Rabah ibn al-Hajjaj, provided in Rajaz style. The abundance of chaste beauties comes from Allah, who glorify him and say, to Allah we belong, and to him we shall return on account of my intense piety. So that's some poetry there. By ta'alluhi, the poet means my acts of worship and my quest for Allah in my deeds. There is no doubt that ta'alluh is the form 5 verbal noun from the form allaha, ya'lahu,
Yes, sir.
and that the meaning of allaha, where were one to employ, it would be to worship Allah. The survival of the verbal noun of Allah is evidence that Arabs used to employ the form 1 verb of this root without any additional prefixes or suffixes. And that is what has been narrated to us as per Sufyan ibn Waqi narrated to us. He said, Waqi narrated to us, he said, my father narrated to us from Nafi, from Ibn Umar, from Amr ibn Dinar, from Ibn Abbas, that he read ويذرق وإلهتك.
وإلهتك وعبادتك, meaning this is the one of singular reading with Ibn Abbas, possible reading.
Forsake you and your gods. He said, ibadahtaka, worshipping you, and he says the Pharaoh was worshipped, but did not worship any other. Sufyan narrated to us, he said, Ibn Uyayna narrated to us from Amr ibn Dinar, from Muhammad ibn Amr ibn al-Hasan, from Ibn Abbas, regarding the verse, وَيَدْرَكَ وَإِلَهَتَكَ, forsake you and your gods. He said Pharaoh was only worshipped and did not worship any other. Abu Ja'far at-Tabari, that is how Ibn Abbas and Mujahid read this verse as being ilahataka, as opposed to the orthodox reading of alihataka. Al-Qasim narrated to us, he said, Al-Husayn ibn Dawood narrated to us, he said, Al-Hajjaj reported to me from Mujahid concerning where he says, وَيَدْرَقَ وَإِلَهَتَكَ, forsake you and your gods. He said, and worshipping you.
The original reading, وَيَدْرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ, he forsakes you and your gods, and Ibn Abbas read sometimes, وَيَدْرَكَ وَإِلَهَتَكَ, you're worshipping. So that's but this is obviously independent if the reading is acceptable or not, is a wrong interpretation either by Ibn Abbas or by the narrator. They misunderstood him. Okay, we discussed the ilah and the root of that before that in the fundamental part. I'm just mentioning this. That's all these nonsense is the statement of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. I'm quoting him. That's all his quote. If you notice the brackets, that's his quote.
There is no doubt that al-ilah, as Ibn Abbas and Mujahid have explained, is a verbal noun from the statement so and so worshipped, Allah ilahatun. God says as one says, so and so worshipped, abada ibadatan.
Is that a quote of Ibn Abdul Wahhab or quote from me from Tabari?
No, this is still carrying on from the text. So this is, let's see what the text. This is from Tabari, yeah, Tabari. And the brackets are just, I don't know, it's just, I'm assuming this is all Tabari.
They should have, in Arabic, I say, انتهى كلام الطبري, end of our speech, things like that, to clarify. Sometimes speech inside speech.
Well, how we can tell is the indentation. So they've indented. When there's something being quoted.
Indented is not enough. You have to make a mark, because you have sometimes someone, we're quoting someone, inside his quote is someone quoted. So unless we do it indent inside indent.
Okay.
Which clumsy. So bracketing is better. with the spread انتهى كلام الطبري انتهى كلام ابن عبد الوهاب, something like that.
Yeah, they have actually put in the appendix a Tafsir at-Tabari volume 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So
is that my quoting of Tabari, Ibn Abdul Wahhab quoting with Tabari?
Yeah. There is no doubt that Allah, as Ibn Abbas, Mujahid have explained. Sorry, let's skip it.
I don't think Ibn Abdul Wahhab is quoting at Tabari. This is my quoting at Tabari. Anyway, continue. Okay.
There is no doubt that al-ilah, as Ibn Abbas and Mujahid have explained, it is the verbal noun from the statement so and so worshipped Allah ilahatan, God, just as one says so and so worshipped abada ibadatan, God, or so and so interpreted abara ibaratan, division. The statements of Ibn Abbas and Mujahid make clear that the verb Allah means abada, to worship, and that al-ilaha is its verbal noun. So that's all Tabari, volume 1, pages 82 and 83. So this is your commentary on that. Given the above, I would argue as follows. Imam at-Tabari was deceived by all of those narrative channels which are purported from Ibn Abbas. However, the isnads for these are highly problematic. Firstly, regarding the narrator Uthman ibn Sa'id. He is Uthman ibn Sa'id ibn Murrah al-Mari, and he is not well known or renowned. According to Al-Hafiz, he is maqbul, acceptable only. That is to say, his hadith are judged to be da'if unless they are supported by parallel channels, but he does not have that parallel channel support here in this respect. Secondly, Bishr ibn Amara al-Khathami al-Maktab al-Qufi, from among the Kibar at-Tabi'in, as narrated by Ibn Majah in his tafsir, yet he is graded by al-Hafiz ibn Hajr as da'if. Lastly, regarding ad-Dahak, Ibn Mudahim al-Hilali Abu al-Qasim, also called Abu Muhammad al-Khurasani, is one of the Thiqat at-Tabi'in. A series of Imams have narrated from him, including Abu Dawud, At-Tirmidhi, and Nisa'i, and Ibn Majah. His grading is Saduq, truthful, and he is well known for tadlis, misrepresentation on reporting, having a great deal of irsal. Al-Dhahabi said, Thiqa, trustworthy as per Ahmad and Ibn Ma'in. Shu'bah said, he was considered da'if to us. Further to this, the following has been mentioned in Jami' at-Tahsil fi Ahkam al-Marasil. Ad-Dahak, so this is from that book, Ad-Dahak ibn Mudhab, Ad-Dahak ibn Mudahim al-Hilali, one of the Mufassirin, Shu'bah denied that he met Ibn Abbas. It is narrated from Yunus ibn Ubayd that he said, I didn't ever see Ibn Abbas. And
so the isnad is broken. There's no connection there. It's not. We're discussing this. I think I should, in the next improvement, I should take all this bit of Tabari and put it in the discussion about ilaha and the various meanings, and then reference to that in the future in this place, because it should be settled before. That all should have been settled and discussed before. So this is one place we have to edit and improve. Okay, carry on.
And it is narrated from Yunus ibn Ubayd that he said, I didn't ever see Ibn Abbas, and narrated from Al-Malik ibn Maysara that he didn't meet him, but he did meet Sa'id ibn Jubair in Rai and took tafsir from him. Shu'bah also narrated from Mushahsh that he said, I asked Ad-Dahak, did he meet Ibn Abbas? And he replied, no. Athram said, I heard Ahmad ibn Hanbal asking Ad-Dahak, did he meet Ibn Abbas? And he replied, I do not know. It was said, so who did he hear al-Tafsir from? He said, they said he heard it from Sa'id ibn Jubair. It is said that he met Ibn Umar, and Abu Sinan said he narrates something which isn't correct to me. I said Abu Na'im was saying concerning the Hakim ibn Dulaym from Ad-Dahak, he heard from Ibn Umar. Ahmad said he is nothing. I say Abu Janab al-Qalbi narrated, and it is Da'i from Ad-Dahak, that he said, I lived beside Ibn Abbas for 7 years. The first of the narratives.
No, it's a mistake. Most likely he's talking about another man. That's the other man who said he lived 10 years, 7 years next to Ibn Abbas. Though Dhahak was never like that. Dhahak was much later. That's only early people have been with Ibn Abbas 7, 10 years. Yeah.
The first of the
really a false narration. So that's concerning the dispute. We cannot trust that this comes from Ibn Abbas in any case.
The first of the narratives I live beside. The first of the narratives are more authentic. Abu Dhura said, "Ad-Dahak from Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, is mursal. He did not hear anything from Ibn Umar, and neither from Ibn Abbas." Abu Hatim said he wasn't alive during the era of Abu Huraira, nor Abu Sa'id, may Allah be pleased with him. Ibn Hibban said, as for the narrations from Abu Huraira and Ibn Abbas, and those narrating from him, all of that is considered, but he is more well known for tafsir. The following has also been mentioned in Tadrib al-Rawi fi Sharh Taqrib al-Nawawi. This is from Nawawi, narrated by Ibn Jarir at-Tabari from the pathway of Bishr ibn Umara from Abu Rauf from Dahak from a Dahak from Abdullah ibn Abbas. He said, Allah is a possessor of al-uluhiyah, divinity, al-ubudiyah, the quality of being worshipped above all of his creation. As for ar-Rahman, it is the fa'alan, nominal form from ar-Rahma, ar-Rahim, refers to being gentle, compassionate to those whom he wishes to show mercy, and being detached and severe upon those he wishes to deliver punishment upon. Bishr is da'if, and the Dahak did not hear from Ibn Abbas.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this is your commentary.
Mhm.
Given the above, it is clear that the isnad is thaqit, severely weakened and fallen. It therefore cannot be used as evidence at all. Hence, attributing the sentence, he is the possessor of uluhiyah, divinity, and al-ubudiyah, the quality of being worshipped, above all of his creation, upon the authority of Ibn Abbas is not correct, nor proven beyond reasonable doubt. Additionally, concerning the other sentence, he is the one whom everything serves and which every creature worships, at-Tabari did not mention an isnad for this. Rather, he mentioned this only in the form of sigat at-tamrid, with that which was narrated to us from Abdullah ibn Abbas. And the indication here being that this is extremely weak.
Mhm.
So what's the form sigat at-tamrid?
Tamrid is sick, is a sick isnab. Sigat al-Tamrid, if they say it has been reported, not I heard or I got.
No, حدثنا.
It has been said, it's just hearsay.
Okay.
If you use this form, meaning it may be true, maybe not, it's like a hearsay, it's irrelevant, it cannot be accepted for a witness. In the court, you're going to say, people say, the judge says, I don't want the people say. Did you see something? Did you hear something by yourself? And from whom you hear? That's what the judge will ask you. That's
Essentially, I think anecdotal.
Yeah. Not
Today-
anecdotal. It is. People use it in something which is not to establish. They know it's not to establish. It is stated. Some people claim.
Mhm.
There's a passive form. Who claimed that? How did you come to know that? Is not the form is used deliberately to indicate something you don't really trust. If you are technical skilled, you should not use, for example, it has been reported. Who reported? Where it is? That's sighat tamrid is a formulation which shows that you are do not have a trustworthy connection or a snad or something like that. But you don't want to have a responsibility with that. So you say it has been said, it is rumored, it's alleged. That's alleged. And when media talk about someone alleged of something before it's convicted and trial, so that nobody will sue them for responsibility, they say allegedly he did that, allegedly, until a final court ruling establishes that he did it. They say allegedly, كما يزعم, has been said, has been alleged, has been claimed, but no evidence yet.
Okay.
That's صيغة التمريض. So the best example in modern time is the word alleged in media reporting about. He's spying for Russia, allegedly spying for Russia. But someone tell you, how do you know? I will sue you for that. I just say allegedly. Some people claim that. Still, the courts are looking for it. So you cannot win a lawsuit this way against him when you use the word alleged. If you don't use the word alleged, you are the media in trouble. Someone could sue you that you are slandering him, and that's for conversation. Yeah. So exactly, that's one of صيغ التبرير. كما يزعم, كما يقال, as narrated.
Today, despite extensive searches, I have not been able to locate at all any isnad properly connecting to Ibn Abbas and carrying this reported wording. The statement itself, he is the possessor of al-uluhiyah and al-ubudiyah above all of his creation, is only to be found in the books of the Wahhabis, but they remain stuck in mere attribution as they cannot produce an isnad for this. Despite which, with arrogance and impudence, they stubbornly attribute it to Ibn Abbas, arguing that he said it, avoiding any mention of an isnad, let alone a discussion of it.
Yeah.
Naturally, it goes with their falsehood. Even the supposed masters of Salafism, Multaqa Ahl al-Hadith, the internet forum group, never mention an isnad for it. Even if that sentence was proven on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, it has no relation to our topic. Rather, it is an explanation of the majestic name, Allah mentioning some of its requirements. It is not a strict, controlled definition of the majestic name of Allah. A fortiori, it is not a strict, disciplined definition of the concept intended by the word al-ilah.
Okay. Exactly. So it says even if Ibn Abbas, it doesn't mean much or anything. It's an attempt to an approximate definition, just giving some meaning so that the listener have something out of that, not a strict definition. And this
Consign.
that there is a verb called alaha. From this, ilah is derived, and we have discussed in the. Maybe I should take that portion. I said put it there when we discussed the root of word ilah, and then we concluded all the linguistic acrobatics is irrelevant. It is ilah and so on is already well established. It may be derived from il or Elohim in ancient languages, whatever it is derived from. The Quran clearly gives the definition in ayat in the verse of tamanu. That's the definition you have to stick at it. What is this root linguistically in ancient time has been all become irrelevant. So uluhiyya should be defined according to what the Quran said. That's it from someone who can create and take his creation by sovereign capability. That's it. It's as likely to worship or non-worship. That's the definition of the Quran. That overrides even all these linguistic development, even if they are true. They are not true, even worse. But we should take the Tabari and put it there also and analyze. And he just referred to it in response to Abdul Wahab. He's quoting what we already discussed about Al-Tabari, and we discussed that and concluded so and so. Yeah. This is to be edited, inshallah. Now, carry on.
Okay. So next, smaller section, consigned to history. Therefore, there is no escape from throwing the purported definition of al-ilah wal ma'bud, the god deity is the one who is worshipped, into the dustbin of history. It is not one of the exploratory sayings or the precise definitions, because it is in reality one of the statements of kufr, disbelief, and this is the truth regardless of the definition of al-ibadah, as it is sufficient only that it be from the sayings and actions of the servants, whether apparent or hidden, regardless of any other details. Accordingly, the expression al-ilah wal ma'bud is nothing more than rhetorical. It mentions some of the matters related to uluhiyya, divinity and its requirements, and nothing else, or it refers to the linguistic origin or something similar to it. Or it is at best merely a matter of emphasis, as is the case with the infallible prophetic speech. Examples here are outlined. An example of what we mentioned concerning emphasis is where he, peace and blessing be upon him, said to Hussein, father of Imran ibn Hussein, Khudai, Kam ta'budul yawm ilahan. How many gods do you worship today? Hussein al-Khudai, I replied only by giving the number 6 on earth and 1 in heaven. This is as if the question was, how many gods, deities do you have? But the words of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him and his family, are more eloquent and dispel any notion that the word ilah may have had multiple meanings among the people of Hussein, as is the case with the word Rabb among the Arabs in general. It seems that this was rare among the Arabs, unlike the children of Israel, who were lenient with the meaning.
So he asked him, how many ilah you worship, up to the correct translation, how many ilah you enslave yourself to him. So meaning the ilah of the meaning we intend, not ilah in another meaning. Maybe the word ilah is used, for example, like boss, like leader, like Rabb is used with multiple meaning. So to try what I'm asking you about, those divinity you believe that they are divine, so that you enslave them to you. But such a complicated question can't be asked to a simple-minded Bedouin. So that come ilahan ta'bud today. Say 7, 1 in heaven says, okay, if you exclude the one on earth, forget about them, check them out, only the one in heaven, then I will teach you something useful. Read the rest of the hadith. So that's using the simple language or a simple man. There's no definition or something like that. It's just to emphasize or to make sure that I'm asking about ilah in the sense those things you think they are harm, you do good and you prostrate to them, you submit yourself to them, you obey their commands. These things I'm asking about, not like ilah, like the boss of the tribe or something. No, that's not what I'm asking about. Because they may have used the word ilah the same way like Rabb. Like, for example, the Old Testament, we mentioned that in the Old Testament, allegedly Allah is telling Musa, you will be ilah of Harun, like the master of Harun and the leader, and I will be your ilah. So obviously there's different relation. So I will be the one on top of you, above you, and you will be above Harun. Obviously by Allah above Musa is vastly far away than Musa above Harun. But the word ilah is used. So at that time, Il, or Elohim, that was the same meaning like master or leader or Rabb. Did not have the skills meaning. So that's developed over history. If that what in the Old Testament can be trusted, there is no reason to distrust it. It doesn't seem there's a need to fabricate something. It's just reporting some old language issues, which may be not reported very accurately, but it indicates that El and Elohim were used for a Lord, essentially, almost synonymous of Lord. And then separated later slowly until the time of Isa, then it developed into the specific majesty name Allah, which is Allah in Arabic. But the Aramaic of Isa salam did not have a declination. It doesn't have Allahu, Allah. He is only Allah. Fixed. They didn't have declination. They don't have these cases. In Arabic, we have declination, which gives the Arabic language massive richness and capability of expression, better than Arabic. So the majestic name in Aramaic is the long development from the time past with Allah. So that was by Isa for the name of the and sometimes if you address Allah, say Ilahi lima sabati allegedly on the cross. My Lord, or my God, But that's very much later, 1,500 years after Musa. So that's all past. It's overridden by the Quranic definition. We have to stick to the Quranic definition, which distills all that and summarize all these linguistic definitions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It seems that this was rare among the Arabs, unlike the children of Israel, who were lenient with the meanings and sometimes used Eloha and Elohim to refer to the dominant controlling master or the respected master of high status.
Yeah, exactly. In addition, like that, there's to Musa, you will be Elohim to Harun, and there will be Elohim to you. I will be your master, and you will be a master of Harun. Although this master is different, that master vastly. But that was the language used at that time. And later on, it became more crystallized and more separated.
In addition to the main use of supernatural beings, controlling master or respecting master of high status, in addition to the main use of supernatural beings. And examples of this is describing Moses as Elohim to Pharaoh in Exodus 7:1.
Also, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also to Aaron in Exodus 4:16. Those texts have previously been cited and others as they are in the Hebrew language. Another example, but on another topic, Imam al-Bukhari included in his Sahih, as did Imam Muslim, the following hadith. Umayyah ibn Bistam narrated to us, Yazid ibn Zurih narrated to us from Rawh, from Abdullah ibn Ta'us, from his father, from Ibn Abbas, from the Prophet ﷺ. He said, give the Thura'id, the shares of inheritance of those who are entitled to receive it, and whatever is left shall be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. The Prophet saying here of a Rajul Dhakar, a man who is male, normally appearing in translations as being male relatives, is for emphasis. Some Arabs may have used the word Rajul, man, to mean insan, human beings, or Adami, or even Shaks, person, which could extend to angels and jinn. Conversely, as Sanajat al-Arab al-Qais said, Allah has taken loyalty and justice for himself and has left the blame unto man. In other words, meaning
the same English. Man in English is used not only for male man for the male, but used also for feminine man, human being,
mankind, effectively. Yeah.
But this is a mankind. But this is in Arabic less than in English. English is man is essentially human being. If it is mentioned like that, Allah is free of blame. If there is any blame, is on man, meaning on the human being. Being male or female is irrelevant. But in English is more used like that more often. German also than in Arabic, but in Arabic is still there. So this also refutes the idea that when discussing messengerhood and prophethood, because they use the evidence that there can be no messenger or prophets which are women. They use the ayah when we're discussing Allah refuting when the Quraysh was saying we don't accept except an angelic being as a messenger. He said, that's not the case, because in all previous messengers before you, we have sent men from the villages. Use the word رجالا من أهل القرى. هنا رجالا in contradistinction to angels, meaning human beings, not necessarily male, but all people being misogynistic, they implemented only men, so women cannot be sent. But it's contradictory history, because we have in the Old Testament women being both prophets, and some of them said, like Deborah is sent and given commands to tribal chieftain, and we engage in a certain battle. So in that sense, she's a messenger. and a prophet. She's a prophet and messenger. And the wife of Elisha was a prophetess. So this is, and there's no way that all of this can be fabricated completely, especially from the Jews who are themselves misogynistic. So that must be somehow the historic core of truth. So that's clarified that the claim of some ancients say only men can be that women are somehow inferior. That's all their imagination. The word rajulan there is in distinction to, and I say, if we made an angel, we would shave him as وجعلناه رجلا. If we made an angel, لجعلناه رجلا. If we send an angel, we have to reshape him so it's appear as human. Otherwise, you will not be able to communicate with him. So it doesn't make any sense to ask Allah to send an angel because you cannot communicate or interact with the angel. And if we send an angel, we will transform him in the shape of man, and you will not be able to recognize that he's an angel. So your objection is nonsensical. Or yours muslikin objection. No, we don't accept any human messenger. We need an angelic messenger. In two places in the Quran, the response is that no. If historically, we never sent except men, human beings. And then the one, when they said, okay, if we send even an angel, it has to be transformed in the shape of a man, and you will not be able to distinguish it. And you will not be able. If he comes in angelic form, it's impossible for you to communicate with him or interact with him. Even it's not possible to see him. He has been transformed, appear like a man. Like Jibreel came to the Prophet sometimes in the shape of the Kalbi. And some people saw him. The Prophet asked him, what, like Aisha saw Dihya with the Prophet, what is Dihya? Which news have Dihya? Because he's a businessman traveling to Sham. He said, Dihya, did you see him? He said, yes, it was with you recently, just in the other room or in front of the house. He said, Dihya is not in, she's still in Sham. He's not back. That's Jibreel coming in the shape of Dihya. So she was unable to see him except as a human being. And she thought it's Dihya al-Kalbi. Because he came in the shape of Dihya, was one of the most beautiful men at that time. So he comes in the most beautiful man shape. And then the hadith, and Jibreel came to ask about Islam, Iman, and so on. He came like someone nicely dressed, yes. Does not look like coming from travel, it came like a Bedouin. But oddly nicely dressed, as if he did not come from a long distance. But nobody knows from Medina, so he must outsider. If you're from outside coming to Medina, you will be dusty. You will show travel. At that time, travel was much more difficult than today. You cannot travel with a suit at that time, with no trains and planes. So traveling with camel back. There's no way you arrive Medina and you have clothes as if you are not traveling, nothing sign of a travel, and you are an unknown person. Where is this guy? And the later that was Jibreel coming in a shape of a man. So we're unable to distinguish him. So angel cannot be sent. If they are sent, they have to be transformed in a shape of man so you can talk to him, you can interact with him. Otherwise, impossible. There's no way you can see angels as they in their own nature. Maybe it's an impossibility in any case. So he has to be transformed in a shape you can understand, which will be a human shape then. You will not transfer him in a horse shape or something. It doesn't make any sense. So in a human shape. So the objection of messengers being not must be angelic is a nonsensical objection, completely impossible. Both comparing history and both comparing the necessity of interaction with the messenger. The messenger has to bring a message. If something, an angel comes to you, give you a message, you cannot see him. You hear something coming from the cloud. Who is that? Nobody knows. So to have a messenger communicate with you until you know that this like this, he must take a shape of a human and communicate with you. So there's just a secondary point, just like an icing on the cake for this, which has nothing to do with our issue, is that the word rajul in Arabic, mostly used for male man, for the male, but much more than English, but actually it can be used also for human being. The hadith of Ibn Abbas clarified that. And so the issue the old issue of that, can women be a prophet or a messenger? Yes, they can. It's rare, not very often, but we have examples in the narration of Bani Israel.
Would Maryam alayhi salam be
and this narration cannot be fabricated for one reason, because if they would have fabricated it, they would not have fabricated for female, because they are themselves misogynistic. Of them, female are like close to the devil. So usually you fabricate something according to your desire and your worldview, not the opposite. But telling something opposite to that which you believe and perceive shows that it must be somehow true. You could not even run away from it, so they narrated it. It's one of the way to analyze that some reports may have a core of truth. If they contradict the narrator's beliefs and so on, so how could he fabricate something like that? It must have a truth. and he could not get away from it. The story must have a core in which Deborah is really a female messenger, and so on. And the same with the wife of Elisha. He talks about her, the prophetess. He doesn't say my wife. My wife is the prophetess in one place. I'll say the prophetess, meaning his wife. She was a prophet also.
Well, would Maryam alayhi salam be considered a prophetess then, according to that? Would Maryam alayhi salam as being
the question is the Quran did not mention prophetess with Siddiqa. Sometimes Siddiq in certain contexts higher, but maybe she was not a prophetess. Maybe it's not necessarily she's a prophetess, but could be. Ibn Hazm says she's a prophetess because the angel talked to her and gave her instruction related to herself only, and that's the definition of prophet.
Also, the fact that she's the highest, the highest status of woman, wouldn't that be?
For example, I give you an example. Look at Ibrahim. Search in the Quran anywhere it says a Rasul. Nowhere. A Siddiq, Nabi. Even his argument to his people say Allah gave him his rationality before that. He did not him. But clearly from later, then it's clearly he's appointed prophet. But the best description is Kana Siddiqan Nabiyya. While his son Ismail said Kana Rasulan Nabiyya. Just in the same surah a few ayahs later. You remember that? واذكر في كتاب إسماعيل إنه كان رسولا نبيا وكان يأمر بالصلاة والزكاة إلى آخره. While Ibrahim, who is definitely higher rank than Ismail, is only called Siddiq and Nabiya. So it's not necessary, but Ibrahim says stressing that Siddiq and Nabi. Maryam never called Nabiya, called Siddiqa. وأمه صديقة كان يأكلها طعام. But why maybe there was no reason to mention it because he mentioned about Isa كان رسولا قد خلقنا. He is a messenger. Before him, messenger have been passed away. Maryam definitely was not a messenger. They didn't forget anything to somebody, but she was giving order for herself. So this is the characteristic of a Nabi, but the Quran is not stressing that. And his mother is Siddiqa, not a divine being or anything like that. Here is the issue is the free from being divine being. So Isa is definitely higher ranking than his mother. He's a messenger, and obviously by necessity a prophet. And she is only a Siddiqa. Prophet or not prophet is not relevant to this concept. He's just merely a Siddiqa, not divine. That's the way you say. وأمه صديقة. So he's a messenger. Before him, there were messenger before. Even someone killed. So even if you assumption of crucifixion does not make him divine. The prophet before him were killed. Messenger before him were killed. Murdered. He's also murdered in the case he was killed. Obviously, Quran denied the killing of Isa. Someone else was killed, but individual of that, even if we assume he's the one who was on the cross dying, fine. It's a murder. Why make it a divine or divine sacrifice? Where do you get this nonsense? So the context dictates that is classify Isa was it as a messenger. For him, many messenger passed, and someone was also murdered. So what's the fuss there? And his mother, she's not divine. She did not have a divine in her belly. She's a Siddiqa, with a very high rank. It's higher than saying just Nabiya. And there's no need there, most likely to say Siddiqatun Nabiya. It will make the music of the ayah not nice. So Siddiqa is enough, which is very high. That's the term used for essentially for Ibrahim and Idris. What called the Kitab Idris, no Siddiqa Nabiya. And we speculated that Idris is actually the translation of the name of Melchizedek, the one who Ibrahim pay his zakat and his share of booty after he won a battle against 4 kings who abducted Lot. That's in the Old Testament. Quran never mentioned this story. So it seemed to be someone similar in rank to Ibrahim. Siddiq al-Nabiya is not used to anybody except Ibrahim and Idris. All others, Rasul and Kareem, Rasul, and we know that according to almost ijma' of all scholars, that Ibrahim is higher ranking than Musa and higher ranking than Ismail, definitely Ismail and Ishaq and so on. Yeah. And also the fact that Ismail mentioned Rasul al-Nabiya while Ishaq is a Nabiya min al-Salihin, the same of Yaqub. So they were not messenger to anybody. They were just giving instruction for themselves. They were not sent to send anybody, just for themselves. That's a Nabi, receiving revelation related to himself. He may tell his children to us, but it's optional. He's not obliged to tell them and not obliged to hire him as a messenger. But they have a good example of him as a Nabi, and they know he's a Nabi, and they believed him in being a Nabi. So even Ishaq is not a messenger, according to the Quran. Also Nabiya min al-Salihin, while Ismail is stressing this. So Ismail was not only a Nabi, but also sent to the people around him and some Arabs in that area. So he has a message and has a Sharia direct to some people. Yeah. Order to that. So that's just a note about woman and misogynist and these old arguments are also invalid. But generally in Arabic, if you say rajul, usually it means man, male man. But when it is count, that you have to make it clear, there is no doubt, and whatever the fara'id leave without the division, what remains after giving all the fraction to the polynomial, there may be some small amount left. This where it goes to the nearest male man. So it doesn't go to female, it's for the nearest male man. Good?
Okay, last line from this chapter. In other words, meaning the human being, male or female, although this is rare, unlike European languages where this is common.
I felt it's good to put that note here just in passing, which is good, beneficial for the reader, but it has nothing to do with the issue we have in hand, really.
Okay, next chapter. We're going to do 2 more chapters, then we can...
It has only two there that a word like rajul can be having a general meaning, a meaning word most common, and then sub-meaning, which is sometimes. So, because the Arab may have used the word ilah a little bit loose, it's not clear what it is. So the messenger will ask him, Kam ilahan ta'bud? How many gods you prostrate to them, you enslave yourself to them, etc., etc. I'm not asking about the tribal shifting. That's not my question. Question about that divine being in the sense we talk about Allah and the divine beings, genuinely. So they made the Kam ilahan ta'bud. That's better than asking Kam ilahan we believe in. Say, oh, our tribal shifting is our ilah. Something. It could be. We don't know. But this way, exclude this. So Imran immediately say what understood what he means. Those entities you believe they have supernatural power, we ask them for help and things like that. Say 7. 1 in heaven, the boss, and with the other in earth, most likely jinn and satanic entity. Say, okay, the one on earth, forsake them, just cancel them. They don't exist. They don't make any sense. If you just direct all belief and worship and submission to the one in heaven, then I will teach you some good words. Something which benefits you. And later on, Hussein embraced Islam well after his son Imran. And then he asked him, you promised me something, give it to me. And he gave him certain dua, which is well known. Al-Himna Rushdi, I think. Yeah.
Okay, far away.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, I was actually going to ask about this again. This Ta'budul Yawmul Ilahan, because I didn't fully understand it. I think the professor just explained it again, but my connection was cutting, so I'm not sure. I was just a bit confused as to what you were trying to,
I mean, have you asked him? Did not ask him simply Kam ilahan indak or Kam ilahan you believe in, to stress whether I mean ilah, the things which supernatural, the things which worshipped, etc. That's what I mean. Because maybe the Arab use ilah in meaning like master or super master.
Okay.
So
is a confirmation. Kam ilahan ta'bud. Which you believe in their divinity in the sense we mean in the worship and the ibadah and deen, not in the mention of the boss of the tribe.
Yeah, like ilah is necessarily connected to ibadah, basically.
No, ilah connected to the supernatural. Because Arab may use the word ilah like rajul usually use for male. But when it counts that you have to make clear, you say in the hadith of inheritance, male man. Using male to stress. Usually you think rajul khalas is male. But this shows that rajul could be in a rare occasion not a man, not a male. And this is, I applied that to the issues about messengerhood and so on, which classical say, this shows clearly that messengers and so on can be only men. That's, Ibn Hazm made that mistake. He said, Maryam was a prophetess, but not a messenger because of this. Even if he's that in his mistake. But we know Maryam was not to send to anybody, so it's not a messenger, definitely. That is a prophetess, yeah, because the angel addressed her with certain commands. So Ibn Hazm may be right in that. But the Quran did not give her the title prophet. Maybe the context did not allow it, or the nazm ayah, the structure of the ayah did not allow it. And the Quran just stressed when he answered the people who regard Isa as divine and his mother as divine. He said, no, Isa is a messenger, like all messengers before. Many messengers passed before him, and some were even killed, murdered. So why exclude Isha and give him something out of the ordinary? And his mother cannot be divine. The maximum she can achieve is being Siddiqa. Siddiqa is very high rank. And the Nazm ayah does not allow to say Siddiqa Nabiyya. It's enough to say Siddiqa in that context. It does not exclude that she is also a Nabiyya. So Ibn Hazm may be right that she is also a Nabiyya.
Okay, thank you.
That's I'm just answering to the misogynist, not this issue, but I say that The word rajul does not mean with absolute certainty male. Otherwise, the Messenger would not have used it. The same, it seems to be some Arabs, the word ilah does not mean absolutely the supreme being, which idols are dedicated to and all these things. It may mean the chief tribal chieftain. And we know indication in old languages, as we discussed from Old Testament earlier, that, and we mentioned the example of it, that Musa is called, I will make you on top or controlling Pharaoh. You'll be Elohim to Pharaoh. So he'll be under you. He'll be terrified of you. You have some power over him somehow. This is obviously a miraculous situation with Musa, because he did not have armies. But Pharaoh was terrified for him. He was never able to harm or attack him directly. He has like an external divine protection relative to Pharaoh. Because when he said, we are afraid if we go to Pharaoh, the moment we bring the message, he will immediately become extreme and يفرط علينا. He will just immediately attack us. So don't worry. سأجعل لكم سلطانا فلا يصلون إليكم. I will give you such an authority. They will be handicapped. They will not be able to touch you. How is that? Is obviously miraculous. But they don't came with an army. Two men, one having a stick, another next to him, both with long beard. Israelite from a slave family, a slave nation. And suddenly Pharaoh is terrified of them that he's not even there telling the gods, pick up them and kill them. That's by divine interference. That is the sultan given to Musa. And in the Old Testament, they say, you will be Elohim to him. You will be having power of him as if you are his God. Yeah, you see, I'm arguing that the word ilah developed, that we have to take the definition of the Quran in Ayat al-Tamanu. The long historic development, we don't need to worry about that. And maybe some traces were remaining with the Arab. You see the point in the question of Umar ibn Hussein. So just cautiously, kam ilahan ta'bud, meaning how many deities you believe in the sense of what mean in matter of religion and devotion and ibadah. Not in the sense of tribal chieftain and someone have authority. Because maybe some Arab used that ilah in the sense of some kind of authority or dominance. No, that's what I mean. What I mean is that what would mean with that Allah is an ilah. People believe Shiva is an ilah. Or they don't believe Moody is an ilah, for example, Mido is master or lead, something like that. You see what I mean?
Okay. Chapter 8, page 72. God is worshipped by right, question mark. Okay, this is a very short chapter. Is the notion of the ilah, deity, worshipped by right, phrased in Arabic as al-ilah huwa al-ma'bud bihaq. Regarding the following statements by Sheikh Al-Hafiz Ahmed Hakami and latterly Ibn Taymiyyah, ilah huwa ilah ma'bud bihaq. Ilah equals rightfully worshipped. Next, al-ilahu huwa al-ma'bud الذي يستحق
who deserve ibadah, who is deserved, who is worshipped by right. So again, ibadah is used in the definition, which is again circular and wrong. But it seems to be better than al-ilah wal ma'bud. This is blatantly false. And we discussed that is, if you say al-ilah wal ma'bud, this means Allah is not ma'bud in eternity. It's not ilah because there was nobody worshipping him. So he became ma'bud only after creation, and some people are worshipping him. So he cannot be ilah, deserve the title ilah in eternity. And this is a statement of kufr. He has all these attributes, including being an ilah, being Rabb, all these names, he have them also in eternity. Before any creation, they are intrinsic attributes of him. And other catastrophic things related to when you say al-ilah is al-ma'bud. This seems to be a little bit better. And that's the discussion. It seems to be a little bit better, but actually contains all the same problem. The problem is the circularity. When the moment you use ma'bud, the question will arise, as we discussed in the beginning. What is the primary concept? Is it ilah? Then ibadah has to define the related to that ilah. So the definition of ilah should contain nothing related to creation or ibadah or someone worshipping or devoted or anything like that, or enslaving himself. And that's the correct one, as Ayat al-Tamana dictated. The other one is ibadah is the primary one, and anything which we direct ibadah to it, that's the hobby position, become then an ilah, deserving the title ilah. And this is blatantly wrong. Yeah, this is blatantly wrong. It's blatantly wrong, which leads to contradiction and so on. And makes no sense. So, for example, people worship Shiva, then Shiva is an ilah because of their worship. They promoted to ilah. And also the communists are right, say there is no ilah. People create ilah by their imagination. Is exactly what the communists are saying. because they deny that an ilah who is the creator of the universe is only nature who is active in the universe. And nature is not conscious, is not deserve the title ilah. This is the origin of a reality. But people create these deities with their imagination. It's a human creation. It's not really in itself intrinsically. And the third one is that you say ilah is defined by ibadah and ibadah is defined by ilah. That's a circularity. This leads to circularity and impossibility. If you analyze it this way, then things will become clear. And the circularity in this type is a vicious circularity because they're defining ibadah that's based on ilah and ilah based on ibadah, meaning one has to be before the other, but the other one before the other one. That is like A created B, B created A, it's impossible. It creates a vicious circle. Not like father and son. You cannot define A is the father of B and B is the son of A. They are simultaneously because the relation between them is procreation, giving birth. So the father who gives birth and the one who is born is called son, and the one who is giving birth is father. So the concept originally behind the both of two is giving birth, procreating in birth form. So there is no circulative saying the son of A is the father of B. Is only conceivable is B is the son of A. There's no circularity there because both of them expressing one fact that one gave birth to the other and they got the names because of this birth activity, the fundamental thing. While A created B and B created A is impossible because it requires that A exists to create B, but B created A, B has to exist to create A. That's impossible. So every one of them has to be exist or not exist at the same time. That's the impossibility. That's a vicious circularity. So circularity is either the vicious one, which we care about. The other one is essentially like so-called circular definition, which is valid because both concepts go back to another concept, which both emerge at the same time. Two sides of the same coin. There's no problem to say the coin has two sides because it has. But what is we are talking about? The coin itself. And it has two sides. Yeah. But if you think about A created B, or A is the foundation of B, and B is the foundation of A, that's impossible in the case of Ibadah and Ilah. Good?
The final bit from Ibn Taymiyyah.
It's a bit deep, but it's not that deep as Ibadah. But if you explain and give example on father and son, this is not circular. This is a circularity. It's not a vicious circularity. It's not a contradictory. Because both are two-sided of the same coin, which is giving birth, creation, being able to be coming into existence by the process of giving birth. So the giving birth is only, and the one who is the originator of the giving birth is called father, and the other, and they are simultaneously.
It means the better word is sire, because birth means through a womb.
Yeah,
so
siring, yeah. Siring is the fundamental, and then the one who sires is the father, A, and the one who is being sired is B. And simultaneously, A and B are valid because they are both the result of this siring or the giving birth or producing productivity or procreate or procreation and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a final statement from Ibn Taymiyyah: God is the one who is worshipped, deserving of worship.
Yeah.
And this is your commentary now. Even if it is possible to escape from the difficulties arising from the implication of these statements, coupled with the phrasing of Tawheed, that there is no God except Allah, it doesn't address matters pertaining to hulul, ittihad, or wahdat al-wujud. However, it does not solve the issue that Allah, may His Majesty be glorified, would not be considered a God in pre-eternity, nor divinity his attribute at all. Nor is there any sense in calling him al-ilah, the deity, at all. All of that is outright kufr. Moreover, following this line of reasoning would entail questioning the credibility of the Quran, leveling the accusation of contradiction against it. This is because it has called some of the asnam of the mushrikeen idol gods, although they are falsely worshipped. Again, this is clear and absolute kufr. This is true regardless of the definition of ibadah, as it is sufficient for worship to consist of the outer or inner aspects and acts of the words of the servants, regardless of any accompanying specific details. Okay, so the next chapter is chapter 9, page 74. Is God worthy of worship? There are some who would argue that the statements made and quoted in the previous chapter from Al-Razi and Ibn Taymiyyah fundamentally resolve the issue, particularly Ibn Taymiyyah's formulation of Ilah huwa al-mustahiq lil-ibadah. The Ilah is the one deserving of worship. Let us first consider the following in Tafsir Al-Razi. And this is from Al-Razi. Fourth, some have said that Ilah is not simply the object of worship, but in fact, Al-Ilah هو الذي يستحق أن يكون معبودا. The Ilah is the one who deserves to be worshipped or deserving of worship. However, this too faces the objection that he would not be the Ilah of objects, beasts, children, and the insane, nor would he have been Ilah in pre-eternity. A third opinion is that it means capable of such acts which would make him deserving of worship from such as can perform it. Know that the first two opinions mean that he was not Ilah in pre-eternity, whereas he was indeed Ilah in pre-eternity according to the third. In response to that, he would argue that broadly there are three interpretations to which Imam Razi sets out. The first of which is Al-Ilah Ibara Anil Ma'bud. Al-Ilah is that which is worshipped. Following that, the second is Al-Ilah huwa alladhi yastahiqqu an yakuna ma'budan. The Ilah is the one who deserves to be worshipped. Lastly, that upon which Al-Razi seems to be settled upon is the one capable of performing actions that, if done, would make them deserving of worship from those who are capable of worshipping. As set out in previous chapters, there are problems underpinning all of this. Moreover, Al-Razi also says in his tafsir, some of them said Al-Ilahu al-Ma'bud, yet this is mistaken for two reasons. The first of which is that he, the Almighty, was already Allah in pre-eternity, and was not worshipped. Secondly, that he, the Almighty, confirmed in the text of the Quran that there are others which are worshipped by his saying, "You disbelievers, and what you worship instead of Allah will be fuel for hell. That is where you will go." The one capable of performing actions that, if done, would make them deserving of worship from those who are capable of worshipping. Further to this, as already quoted earlier, the following has been mentioned in Ibn Sidas al-Mukhassas. Furthermore, it was said that Ilah is the one deserving of worship, and it was also said he is the one who is capable of what worship necessitates. Whoever claims that the meaning of al-Ilah is the same as Ma'bud, worshipped, has erred, and that the Quran and the Sharia of Islam testify against his error, because all of that proves that there is no God but Allah alone who has no partner.
And the other one, which that he's capable of acts and so on, is that there is no need for these acts to make these acts what make him worthy of worship. Just capable of certain acts, and these acts in Surah Al-Tamam, that he can create with his sovereign will and take his creation away. That's enough. Being a result of that he's worthy of worship, not worthy of worship, is irrelevant. That's a definition independent. So the definition independent of worship is the clean one. And then worship will be defined later relative to such an entity or to any other entity. Then it is, we can, these acts which we can worship or enslavement to ourselves is directed to something who is should not be directed to, then it is a false worship and it's a false deity, or is directed to the one who is only one, Allah Ta'ala, and that's the correct worship. That will be, so ibadah will be secondary to be related to the one entity which has certain attributes, which has nothing to do with being someone being enslaving him to or submitting to him or devoted to him or not devoted or loving him or hating him, completely independent from an inner action of another entity. Just intrinsic attributes, like Surah Al-Tamam. So this is the correct definition. So Ilah has to be defined independently, and then worship has to see what is the meaning of worship. We go to the Arabic word of worship and so on, and then we get the definition of worship.
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask. So, why is it the case? Because obviously you're saying that with the Ilah meaning mustahiq al-ma'bud, it would mean that Allah wasn't always Ilah for all of eternity. So I'm just trying to understand.
Read what Tabari says. Then those who are incapable of ibadah is not in their Ilah. mentally, and so on. So
But why is it necessary? I'm sorry if this sounds really stupid, but why is it necessary that Allah has been Ilah for all of eternity? If Ilah means
because the name Allah is His name in eternity also. Although
but
later in the language, but that's His name.
what's the evidence of that?
كان
His
الله
name in
ولم يكن
eternity?
شيء معه is necessary.
Oh,
Is a divine
it-
attribute. And so ayat al-Tamanu' shows clearly He's capable of creation from eternity and can't take His creation away. That's the definition of Ilah.
So
Just forget about worship, get it out of the definition of Ilah. Then you are ground. All other
So
things get you in circularity.
Let me just make sure I've understood this correctly. So, because the Quranic text basically points to the fact that Uluhiyya is an attribute of Allah, then it's clear that
And
it must be
آية التمانع settles that.
the
By
ayah of
using the word
Tamanu'.
إله. ما كان معه من إله إذا لذهب كل إله بما خلق. So it's the one who creates by his sovereign will and can take his creation from anybody else.
Yeah. Okay. So by necessity, he must have been Ilah for eternity, basically.
That's it. From eternity is intrinsically his attributes. He's capable of creation. Even if he doesn't create in eternity, start creating one time after eternity. That's a very complicated issue of time and eternity. But independent, he's capable of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's the definition is clear. No problem with that. So Ilah is related to things, attributes, and action of that entity.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So Ayat al-Tamanu' clear that. And all other things having circularity. To be in a safe ground, completely forget about ibadah and ubudiyya and someone devoted or loving and hating and so on to a certain entity to define divinity. Divinity is completely independent, is intrinsic attributes of that entity. That entity. If it's a serious one, it may be attributed false to someone else, that can be exposed. But if it's really attributed with right, then it must be someone who can having some divine attribute. Like for example, when someone claims the jinn, they cannot create, but they can escape from Allah's hand. So they have, at least in escaping away and getting away, equal power to Allah. This way you give them a divinity attribute. Has nothing to do if someone worship them or sacrifice for them or do it. This is just intrinsically. By this, we know this is false. It's impossible. But if someone believes that, he made them, then he regarded them as divine, and he is a mushrik. He attributed divinity to something which should not be attributed divinity to, by mistake or by error, by inheritance from the parents and so on. But the rational argument show that's impossible. It can't be. It can't be. You see? Just get out of the circularity. Remove the word ibadah from your mind. The disease of the Wahhabi and so on is that they got to ibadah and tried to say someone kissing the grave and prostrating with the grave made the grave to a divine being. He's mushrik. Mushrik meaning he have another deity besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason where they translate La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah meaning there is no divinity whatsoever except Allah. All other things are false and imagination or false attribution. That's what the meaning of it. It doesn't mean that there is no divinity which is worth of worship. And there's other divinity who are not maybe worth of worship or not worth of worship. They mentioning worship there undermine the kalimat al-Tawheed, destroy it. Make it a joke. But people did not notice that because the circularity is deep and nobody is really thinking about that. But when you start applying it to grave and things like that, you get a problem. You get into catastrophic area in the application. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
let's continue, inshallah. Taking all of this together, it is clear that utilizing any of the following sentences, like al-ilahu al-mustahiq lil-ibadah, that the ilah is the one deserving of worship, or al-ilah.
It looks first innocent, but in reality it turns out to have deep problems.
Yeah.
But not as obvious as the ilah al-ma'bud. Al-ma'bud is definitely false. Which Ibn Abdul Wahhab claimed ijma' al-ulama. Is lying bold because even his Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah is not saying that. So it's not ijma'. He's the only one say that. So boldly is Ibn Miao and few others in time past, few idiots in time past. Even not from them Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is much more intelligent than makes such a stupid statement. And the Tabari refuted that clearly. But the other one is also can be refuted by various reasons. It looks first innocent, but in the definition of ilah, if you use ibadah or ubudiyya, you are ending in a catastrophe. We will have some kind of circularity. So the correct way is that define uluhiyya independent from any activity of any servants or any creation. Only the divine being and his intrinsic attributes, and define that. And then we sort out what is then ibadah based on that definition of divinity. Yeah. Then we sort it out.
الإله هو الذي يستحق أن يكون معبود. The ilah is the one worthy of
but it's
worship.
wrong. That's also the translation. We see Muhammad Hijab using it, and many, even Paul Williams, got fooled by that. Because the circularity is deep here, it's not directly seen. والإله المعبود is catastrophic, is out there. But this one is not far away from that, but it is hidden again under a second layer of deception. That's it. So the correct definition is that Ilah is the one who is capable of creation with his own power and capable of taking his creation away or preventing anyone from touching them, any other entity. That's it, like Ayat al-Tamana. And that's impossible that to have two of those. Okay. And some aspects of divinity can be attributed like sub-aspects, like the jinn can run away from him, meaning they are capable to escape his power. So it's not part of his creation. But for the Jews claim they are created by him, but they became evil and suddenly rebelled. They want to make Allah, exonerate Allah from doing the evil. But he's the one created them. So how come they rebel about him? So it's internally contradictory. We discussed that issue of duality and two being, one good and one evil and so on. It doesn't solve people invented that to solve the problem of evil. Originally, they believe this the shaitan, the shaitan is created. But it's created. Who created him? Allah. So ultimately, the evil goes somehow to Allah. They want to clean Allah from this state. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is building the theory of qadar correctly. Yeah. There's no other way. They're claiming that other entity suddenly became evil without Allah capable to restrain them, meaning Allah is not full power, full, and cannot be the creator of the universe, cannot be the necessary existing eternal being. Both of them some kind of stage entity who declared to be ilah by no will. But this is issues. So the whole thing came in the duality is it tried to exonerate Allah from solve the problem of evil. That's not a solution. This solution will fail, as we discussed you remember we discussed that earlier.
Okay. Both these or others deriving them from them remain invalid. Such definitions necessarily and inevitably entail that Allah the Almighty was somehow not al-ilah, the God deity in pre-eternity. Clearly this is manifest statement of kufr. Secondly, that he the exalted would somehow not be considered as an ilah of inanimate objects, the breadth of animals and other creations, or even children under the age of reason.
They cannot worship anything. They are not capable of any act of worship.
Well,
So the definition, the worship can define for them. So it's not their ilah. Because for them, there's no worship whatsoever. So the issue of worship or not worship is irrelevant. So it creates that. But it needs a bit of digging, like Raji did. So what definition is having faults? Besides only the deep circularity in the second definition.
The argument being that they cannot perform the acts of worship regardless of how one details that or details its components. Yet children under the age of reasoning and those lacking mental capacities are all from the progeny of Adam, hence they constitute people or being from mankind in general, thereby coming within the scope of the explicit wording in the Quran, namely, say, I seek refuge with the Lord of the people, the controller of the people, the Ilah, God of people.
Yeah.
Claiming otherwise would be to stand in opposition to the manifest revealed truth, thereby constituting a lie and falsehood. That too is clear disbelief. May Allah protect us from lies, falsehoods, and all forms of shirk and kufr.
Okay. And this also said that not only just remind of the summary of the discussion with Musa. The Quran summarizes it in a very concise place in one place, another place is longer discussion. Some places that when he introduced himself, Musa, when he called him, it does not mention the long discussion and so on. He said, Inni an Allah, introduce himself. He says, who is that? Who is talking to me for this very thing? So, Inni an Allahu la ilaha illa ana. I am Allah, the deity. That's a summary of all the long discussion of the Old Testament, and including all the development until the word Allah has been developed in Aramaic and Arabic. Summarized concisely. Based on that, because there is no deity beside me in the sense of power and so on, and undefeatable power. فَاعْبُدْنِي, therefore enslave yourself to me. So even this definition of sujood and ruku' being ibadah is wrong. Enslave yourself to me. As recognized, since I am the only creator and the only one who spanned this existence, and I created for myself. There's no other entity I'm creating. It's not like the Japanese car worker. He makes cars, he's the creator of the car, but he's not making for him, making for his boss, or making to sell it in the markets. When Allah started the universe, there was no other. The only entity in existence, and that is the existing Allah himself. So he created for whom? To sell it to someone. There's no somebody else. So he's created for his own sake. So he's the creator and the owner, based on his being the creator for his own sake. So based on that, he's owner everything, real owner, absolute owner, and absolute control of everything, and absolute master of everything. Based on that, recognize that, step one, فَاعْبُدْنِي, recognize that now. That's a rational command. You recognize that by reason. But if you say, إِنِّي أَلَغُ الْهَلَيْلَنَا, then he must be the master and the owner, absolute owner. Recognize that, فَاعْبُدْنِي, meaning recognize that, and act upon it by submitting yourself to me and recognizing. Say, yes, I accept that I am your slave. I am surrendering and I'm submitting. That's فَاعْبُدْنِي. You see? That's it. Probably, after recognizing, necessary, the first step is recognizing this fact, that he's the absolute owner, real, the ultimate owner, not a relative owner like I own a car. Because this is given by Allah later, but this is go to the fundamental. There's no other concept of ownership available, so that's the absolute ownership. He's the creator, and then created for his own sake. So that things will be his own, and he's absolute owner because he's the creator. That's the highest level of ownership. And because he's the absolute owner and absolute controller, he's the absolute master. Must be obeyed conditionally, surrender to unconditionally. Must, by necessity of reason. That's necessity of reason. If you recognize that, but that's not فَاعْبُدْنِي yet. فَاعْبُدْنِي, do the act willingly to enslave yourself to me. Recognize that and go down in submission and slavery. And then after that, فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمْ, then he gives it, وَأَقِمْ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِ. Establish salah. So salah is not ibadah. Establishing salah is obeying the command for him. I give you now, as since you worship me, or you enslave yourself to me, part of that, in that case, in case of Adam, I did not ask him for salah. I asked him just to avoid that tree. That's the only command, or the only prohibition I gave. Nothing whatsoever. I didn't say prostrate, do salah, nothing. Absolutely nothing except that. For you, we are more advanced now. I want from you more things. One of the most important, establish prayer, whatever structure of prayer at that time, he revealed to him details, that's the inference. Establish certain acts called prayer to keep these facts present in your memory as much as possible, because the finite mind will not keep that present continuously. Allah keep all these things present in his knowledge permanently, unshakable, undoubtful. That's not the case of finite minds. So salah is to help you to get that in. When you get busy in life, you forget, and then you say, even you don't have Allah in your mind at all while you're going in the market and buying and selling. You're thinking about the goods, about the money. Do I have my wallet? Did I forget at home? That's what is in your mind now. Allah is not present actively. It's in the subconscious. Certain time in the day, you get the forward and then say, as if you are looking at him. But as a human being, when I call to Allah that all the time, it's impossible to do it all the time. So there's aqim dhikr, so that you remember and you reinforce this. But you have already submitted as a fundamental principle. Or you have rebelled like Iblis, rejected that. Then you become a kafir and not a worshipper. You become a rebellious. That's what happened. If you look at this, then all problems are solved. You don't need to say worshipping grave or worshipping tree. This is all secondary issues to be settled later. Is it really worship? Is it not worship? And so on. Is it really shirk or not shirk? Why? If it's shirk, what's the reason? If someone prostrate to the idol, he's committing shirk because he could not prostrate to the idol, a prostration which can be worthy of calling ibadah or enslavement, unless he believes that the idol is somehow divine, or an eye, or a sense organ of the divine. So it has certain aspects of divinity. That's the reason is prostrating to the idol is an act of kufr and shirk. While prostrating to someone as a greeting, which is common. The Indian degree, they're pundits by prostration, even more than prostration. They lay completely flat. That's not worship for them. That's just veneration. The angel, Allah ordered the angel to prostrate to Adam, to make a sujood to Adam, just for takreem. The family of Yusuf, when he got them up with the throne in Egypt and welcomed Egypt, they made sujood to him. What does it? Did they believe he's divine? No, just for veneration. So the act of sujood is nothing. What is the belief and the direction of sujood means? Is that what make it ibadah or non-ibadah? We discussed that ad nauseum later, but every time I should have maybe stressed that again and mention the issue of Ayat Nuh and Ayat al-Tamanu. And these issues of Tabari, maybe I should shift them to the discussion of the chapter of Ilah and just refer to it. We have discussed this issue already and shown that this is narration of Abbas is faulty. It cannot be established with Abbas. But even if established with Abbas, it may be not, Abbas is not intending to give a definition in a strict sense, in a strict logical. The meaning of definition, that is all inclusive what is there and exclusive anything outside. That's the meaning of a definition. Otherwise, it's not a definition. It's just an approximate explanation. It's what they call it is a heuristic explanation. Yeah, heuristic explanation is acceptable. It may be a heuristic explanation, maybe, from Ibn Abbas. And many of Ibn Abbas' explanation and many things are actually heuristic. He's not intending to give you a sharp definition, which includes everything falling in it and exclude anything. That will be a sharp, mathematically strict definition. That's what we are here forced to do, a strict definition. So saying al-ilah is ma'bud as a definition is utterly wrong. Al-ilah is mustahaq al-ibadah or ma'bud bihaq is utterly wrong because of the reason we just mentioned. The correct thing is that the one is an ayat al-tamanu. That's the only thing. The one who has certain attributes, when a creation is there and they recognize that and submit to it, they will, these will be then, these acts will be called ibadah. Otherwise not. But it's later. So ibadah is secondary, based on the definition of independent from any created being or existing observance. So you see where the disease started. But Ibn Abdul Wahhab is adamant. He wants to make this circumambulating the graves and respecting to the dead people there and so on. He wants to make that shirk akbar. He insists on that. And he has to tune everything upside down. Start from the result he wants, whatever reason, disease in his mind or heart, and going back. So he's dealing with the things upside down. And so starting from the correct start, he starts from the end. Which usually, if you start from the end, you end usually in a catastrophe. You end in a catastrophe. Everywhere.
Yeah. Next chapter, Jonathan. So this is chapter 10. We'll finish this one. Page 77, chapter 10. What actually is worship? After thoroughly discussing the concept of al-uluhiyya, divinity, it is necessary to briefly touch upon the concept of al-ibadah, worship, whether defined with the article al or that in the constructed state as ibadat Allah, worship of Allah, or ibadat al-Uzza, worship of al-Uzza. Essentially, this involves examining al-ibadah in its core essence. This concise treatment is essential due to the close intellectual connection between the two concepts, the concept of al-uluhiyya and the concept of al-ibadah. As for the detailed discussion of religious rituals, acts of devotion and acts of veneration and sanctification, which jurist terms ibadah, acts of worship, and ibadah as a singular act of ibadat, and ibadah as a singular act of worship in an indefinite form, it is important to note that this terminology is rather unfortunate and unsuitable. Such a detailed discussion merits a separate section entirely. Linguistically, al-ibadah is a verbal noun derived from abada, ya'budu. Ibadah, to denote the matter of worship. It follows the pattern of kataba yaktubu kitaba, which denotes to write, with the verbal noun being writing. In the original linguistic sense, it means humility. Submission.
Here I have in the last version improved say, but enslave oneself. That should be translated in English without saying enslaving oneself to something. That's the Arabic word. So the Quran, it should be, I developed that later actually. So we missed that in the book. This would have solved many problems much earlier. Is that it's coming from abada. And abada in Arabic is clearly abd, slaves, what you own, is because he's submissive. Al-tariq mu'abbad, a road which is mu'abbad, made submissive, is smooth. While the road who is not paved is not smooth. If you walk, you have to jump, you have to watch that your foot doesn't fall in a pothole and so on. That's not smooth. But the tariq al-mu'abbad, the road which is paved, is mu'abbad, made smooth and submissive, lying flat. You walk on it with ease. You are master of it. And the way of the road who is not is the غير mu'abbad, the one has potholes and so on. Thus you have to walk carefully. The road is not submissive to you. You have to look where you put your foot. There may be a pothole there. There may be something there. But the asphalted road, especially if it's asphalted nicely and newly surfaced, you just go smooth. You don't even to think. It's made, you go very smooth. You are mastering it and you don't need even to, just subconsciously you look and your foot will move normally. But if it's not mu'abbad, you have to be careful. There may be a small step there. And if your foot gets stuck in a step, you will fall in your face and break some bones. So that's the farq between tariq mu'abbad. We should have stressed that here. We did not do it, unfortunately. I just say humility as submission. Yeah, let's get the core, but I did not expand it the way and in Arabic, using abudni, like in addressing Musa, use the word meaning enslave yourself to me. Not love me, not hate me, not enslave yourself to me. Recognize that I own you and that you have absolute command and you are obliged by necessity to absolute obedience. Now comply with that, accept it and submit to it. Then you are a habit. Before that, you are just recognizing that philosophically. That's not enough. You have the correct basic creed, but you are not complying with it. Like Iblis. Iblis has no doubt that he knows that Allah is the ultimate creator and sovereign. But he rebelled, he refused. I'm not going to submit. I rebel, I refuse your command. So he's rebellious, he's not abid. He's rebellious, he's fasiq. Fasiq kafir. Fasiq meaning rebellious, manifestly. Which he should not be, because he's, by necessity of reason, he is the fully owned and fully and fully under the command of, should be under the command of Allah. But he is refusing to recognize that. He knows it, but he's refusing to admit to it. So just knowing it theoretically is one step. Next step, accepting it and submit to it. Otherwise, that act is act of will. It's not just theoretical. Like, for example, the Satanists say, we are rebelling against Allah, we are free people. That's the way of freedom. Rebellion against Allah is the way we express our freedom. And this way, we are rebellious. And they call him the cosmic tyrant. Admitting that have the ultimate power, and he can enforce everything he wants with absolute power. But admitting that does not make you abd, doesn't make you a believer, does not make you non-fasiq. You have to accept that this is the reality, and this is by right being the reality. And you accept it and you submit to it. Then you act upon it as much as you can, because human nature is that it may fail. That will be then disobedience and ma'asiyah, not fisq and rebellion and kufr. Clear? So that's it. So the word for acts, calling acts of certain ibadah and so on is actually not. It is, these will be rituals, will be acts which express the obedience or disobedience. And if they express obedience or acceptance, the fact that it is absolutely sovereign, then it can be classified as ibadah. On the other coin, for example, when you attribute only a limited divinity to something like the jinn. Okay, let's take an example of jinn. That's will be discussed later also in detail, but let me take it. The jinn. And some believe that they can run away from Allah. And they are definitely harmful, but that's the definition of jinn. They are harmful creatures, mostly evil creatures. Okay. And you are afraid of their harm because you believe they can harm, not that they can harm, you believe they can harm. Does not make that you're giving them any divine attribute, but the question, they can harm and get away from Allah. So then some magicians tell you, okay, you have been harmed by the jinn and so on, you have been touched by the jinn or whatever myths they try to sell the people. We have to give me money or get me a cow, so we sacrifice and slaughter for the jinn. This way we keep them at bay. You hate them. There's no love there. You don't want to submit them, but you want to prevent the harm coming from you. Not by taking refuge to Allah and acknowledging that they cannot run away from Allah, but by slaughtering for them, to appease them. That act of slaughtering is a shirk and is a type of act of ibadah, not based on love and submission, based on fear of that they can harm and get away with the harm in no way to prevent it except by appeasing them. You see the point? That would be an act of shirk. You can call it act based on, without having anything with love. And so even the Ibn Taymiyyah definition of ibadah is extreme in love and submission is faulty. Because this is definitely shirk. Nobody disagrees with that. So for the jinn believing they can get away from Allah. Like the jinn says, so then our Safi, the devil, persuaded us that we can run away from Allah. We have some kind of ability to confront Allah and run away from his punishment. Otherwise, how he persuaded them that you rebel with me? Saying we can't get away, which is impossible. If they knew it's impossible and they were convinced it's impossible, they would surrender, at least out of fear, at least. No, there is no way. This will be futile. We have to submit. That's most rational being will see. We have to submit. Rationality dictates you have to submit. It's an absolute thing. You cannot confront the absolute. You are finite. You are limited. You have. No escape from this. But Iblis persuaded them. They say, that's what you say, إِنَّ ظَنَّنَا أَن نُعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَن نُعْجِزَهُ هَرَبًا. We now know that we thought in time past that we can run away from Allah in such a way that he would be unable to catch us. That's what Iblis persuaded us to believe in. But as we see that as a fallacy. We see that we are limited. That's an impossibility. That's a false creed. And based that, they separated Iblis and they became believer, which is the rational way of doing things. Iblis did not do the rational way. So his act of rebellion, he claims act of freedom. No, his act of stupidity is abuse of freedom, because that freedom he has to rebel is given by Allah initially. And he gave him sovereignty on his own freedom and freedom to choose, because this it has extreme value by itself. It's a great gift. And he turned the gift into a curse. That's his guilt. But that's an issue of good and evil we discuss elsewhere. But that's the so sacrificing for the jinn to keep them at bay. But it's not the same if you, for example, you are in a place where there's some large tree, and then you see a lion charging toward you from far away, and you have maybe hunted some animal and so on, and you need some time to climb the tree and get away. So you throw the animal to a lion, the gazelle, so that hoping that the lion get busy with that, and then you get time to climb. Is that sacrifice and worshiping the lion? No, it's not worshiping. Because this is a natural act, and you know the lion will be busy with that, and you can't get away. You can't get away. That's not a sacrifice. That's not an act of worship. You don't become a kafir by that. You are perfectly doing the right thing. Because you don't believe that getting away from that is impossible and that he can refute Allah in Allah's catching him. No, he can't. But at the moment, giving him the gazelle, because the lion is obviously hungry, as usually he will not charge against human. And that's it. Give him that. You get busy with it, and you climb the tree. Throw him something, he gets busy with it for a few moments, and then you climb up the tree. That's not a sacrifice like the sacrifice to jinn. It's different. It's completely different. Sacrifice to jinn is have another mental image in your mind, another intention. It's not the same. It looks at face as if it's the same. It's not. It's not. And many other examples and other types of things like that. Because we now define really what's divine, full divine, and those really other aspects of divinity which we will falsely attribute to a certain entity, which is because for created being, for jinn, for other entities, people are usually does not attribute to full divinity. They attribute to the supreme God, or the fundamental one. They attribute part of the divinity, some divinity aspect, but that makes them enough mushrik, because they should not have been attributed that, because that's false. But the jinn cannot get away from Allah. That gives them something, at least some aspect of divinity. And thus any act based on that directed to them to avoid their harm and something like that is blatantly an act which we can call sha'ira or act of worship. So the difference between slaughtering for the jinn based on that belief and slaughtering to the lion, because if you don't get a lion busy with the lion, he will come and devour you with the system of the universe. Unless Allah miraculously save you from him, we can't. It's available, but you don't expect the miracle to happen for you. So you throw an animal or a food for him to get him busy and get enough time to get away, or get in your car and lock it, or something like that. It's difference. While the Christian is a firm creed that they can get away from Allah and he will never be able to catch them. So you must do the sacrifice to get away of their evil. In the case of it's because of the law of nature. It's clear that if you do that, then possibly you will get away and you can save yourself. According to this unit, there is no way in your mind that the lion charge cannot be stopped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala miraculously. It's not. The lion is not outside Allah's capability. So you do not declare the lion having divinity, and whatever you offer to the lion is not a sacrifice in the sense of ibadah, nothing. It's just a way to get the animal busy and so you can get away, which is with the system of using the ways and means available in the And it's a wise course of action, because you should not be at that moment think that Allah will make a miracle for you like he did for Daniel, the prophet, where the lion charged to him and Allah stopped them and they were all frozen in their place. You don't expect that. It can't. It's with Allah. So whatever you will throw the lion and so on is not a sacrifice, it's a ibadah, has nothing to do with worship whatsoever. Nor that turn you into in the mushrik kafir. Okay? So I just gave some examples so that see I should have really earlier in the book, inshallah, the next edition, we will put that from Eli, explain that fa'budni, what the meaning is, and that ibadah is there in Arabic. And this is one of the reasons the Arabic language and the Prophet was chosen from Arabia and Middle Arabia, where the Arabic language slowly developed in such a way under divine guidance. And every language obviously under divine knowledge, but subtly guided so that the word used for ibadah in Arabic says, enslave yourself to me. Not worship. Worship in English. What's the meaning of worship in English? It means honoric. It's not meaning enslave themselves. That's the reason you have a title in Scotland they use for the mayor, his worshipful, his respectability. Even the mayor level of a city. So clearly has nothing to do with the ibadah. It's not a correct translation, but it's the word used everywhere. And the better word used by Christians is serving. But this is somehow they felt a little bit uneasy to use enslave. We should not be hesitant with enslave me. Instead, serve me. That will be a better translation, because I'm the only deity. So serve me is a good translation, but a better enslave yourself to me. Recognize that you are my slave and act upon it by submission, or create the verb enslave yourself to me. We should not hesitate to use the word enslave. Even the Western people somehow have some sensitivity of the word enslave. We don't care about that. It's perfectly the literal translation fa'budni. Maybe they should, inshallah, in the next edition, I will stress that from the beginning. That resolve many things from the beginning, clarify many things. But carry on now here. So, ibadah, I said here submission for mentioning the order, but I did not exhaustively mention the original meaning of the word. I don't mention the road was paved and with potholes. I should have expanded that.
It does have it in this one. It does have it. So it says this is evident in the.
A bit not sharp enough. It should be sharpened and made clearer. Yeah.
Okay. This is evident in the phrase tariq ma'bud.
Ma'bad.
One second. A paved road, meaning a path that is smooth and prepared. Similarly, when we say fulan abdili fulan and so is a slave to so and so, it implies that he is owned as a possession under the authority and command of the owner. That's the original linguistic meaning.
But obviously, for a human being, abd of someone is just a small step. Both are unlimited and finite. But being abd to Allah is an infinite far distance, is much, much higher, is an absolute slavery, absolute mastery, ultimate one, conceivable by reason. This one is a relative one, because the one on the slave buying him, he did not create him. The slave maybe have been wrongly taken into abudiyah by being abducted, which is a big haram, all these things. Still, he's still on him. He bought it in a market where people do not bother about the origin of the slavery, where it comes or something like that, whatever it is. But until slavery was abolished, it was okay. He owned him and have certain ownership on him and certain legal aspect, the same way you own a house. Even your ownership of a house. Also, you did not create the stones, you did not create the cement and the material from which the cement, cement came from factory. But the factory got it from certain sands and clays and burning them and so on. And where is the fire from oil? And the oil is created by Allah millennia back, all of these things. The ownership is limited, not absolute, like the ownership of Allah, who created from nothing for his own sake. So the rank is different, but it's still used linguistically, even in this lower level of istabad and ubudiyya and ownership. Okay, carry on.
Okay. That the original linguistic meaning is التذلل والخضوع والانقياد
obedience, submission, acceptance, obedience, which expresses itself like that. If you internally accept to be enslaved to Allah, then you become abid. Iblis did not become abid, but when he refused the sujood, he rebelled. Before that, he was very abid. But he rebelled, fasaq. He broke out of the divine command. Instead of submitting it like the angels, automatically, he did not. So he ceased to be abid and went into rebellion. Okay, carry on.
The original linguistic meaning, which encompasses the notions of submission and surrender, is solely intended in expressions such as fulan and abd mamluk li fulan. So and so is a slave and owner, and so and so and so. It has no connection to the concepts of shirk and Tawheed in their respective legal or Sharia senses, although Islamic law discourages the use of the term abd, slave, and amma, female slave, for possessions, preferring instead the terms fatah, young man, and fatah, young woman, as will be discussed in the appropriate context. This linguistic meaning is also intended in the famous prophetic statement, perished is the slave of the dinar, perished is the slave of the dirham, perished is the slave of the luxurious garment. Undoubtedly, this illustrates the eloquence of the prophetic speech, as he likened the one overcome by the love of wealth and goods to be a humiliated own slave who has no control over his affairs and cannot escape the authority of his master.
So the money and desire for the money control him. Instead of he controls the money should be in your hand under your control. Then you are not a slave of the money. But if you are accumulating wealth and then in such a way that the money is in control of you, you are counting it, you are protecting it, you are saving away. And if something is taken with you, collapse, and all this sign that you have become a slave of the money instead of becoming the master. You ought to be the master of it. And that doesn't harm you if you have billions. But the moment you are a slave to the money, then you are worthy of to be unhappy. Maybe unhappy the one who's a slave of the dinar, slave of the dirham, slave of the beautiful clothing and so on. Was willing to do everything to own them. You own them to enjoy them and to benefit from yourself and fulfill your desires, not the opposite. But now you descended to a level that money became your master instead of you were the master of the money or wealth. Like many people who are wealthy, really wealth became their master. Instead of they are the master of the wealth, and the wealth is not in their hand, it is in their heart. And they are in the hand of the money. They become slave of the money. They work just to increase that money, count the money, counting, closing it away. Prime example is that in the crisis of 2008, a billionaire in Germany, I don't remember his name, he has, at the beginning of the crisis, he has 8 billion, B. And then during the crisis at the end, because of the collapse, he lost not that much. He lost 1 billion, we're down to 7 billion. He's still over rich. Whatever in the universe you need, you can buy with this amount. What he does, the guy, he commits suicide. So he's the slave of the money. He lives for the accumulating money. Not that he earn money to enjoy life and increase his life pleasure and good deeds, if there's any good deeds. No. The fact that the money shrunk with 1 billion, 1 out of 8, imagine, he's still billionaires, almost multi-billionaires. and then he could not stomach it. He's committed suicide. This river, an unhappy slave of the dinar and the dirham and beautiful clothing, a slave of wealth, not the owner of wealth, the master of wealth. So what should be in your hand, you should own it, has become your master, and you are owned by it. And they have an English term say, this guy worship mammon. Mammon is wealth and money. Instead of mammon being his slave in his hand. Yeah. Okay, that's just a side aspect of related spirituality and perfection of belief and things like that. That's the hadith of Ta'is Abdul Dinar. It's not that the one who is not Abdul Dinar is the one who put the dinar and makes sujood and report to it and supplicate. Definitely not that. The meaning is the metaphorical meaning, which I just explained.
Continuing the text, however, it is certain that this is not the category of Allat, Abdullat, the slave of Allat, Abdul Uzza, the slave of Allah,
Exactly.
Abdul Manat, the slave of Manat. This original linguistic meaning is of little consequence and negligible utility in our discussion, just as the original linguistic meaning of the term ilah, God deity, was of little consequence and negligible utility. If we aim to understanding the meaning of ibadah as it was instinctively understood by the eloquent Arabs during the time of the revelation of the Quran, before the corruption of the Arabic tongue and spread of grammatical errors, and before the confusion introduced by the terminologies of legal jurists and theologians who disrupted the original distinctive meaning. That much is clearly...
That's the reason in the early generation, up to the time of Muawiyah, if someone is indulging act of what they call act of worship and sha'ir, they don't call him abid. That's later. They call him nasik. Nasik, nusuk. Nusuk meaning rituals, a ritualistic man, one who is doing plenty of salah, doing plenty of siyam, doing plenty of sacrificing for in Mecca and all these things. And they call him nasik. Salama saw some people who looks like they are walking slow and as if they are tamawatun. They behave as if they are dead. Tamawut. You know how some Sufi walk. They walk submissive with lower head, looking down and so on. This is called tamawut, pretending to be dead. And she says, what these guys? What's the problem with these guys? Say, these are the nusak, nasik, the ritualist. Say, are these nasik? God forbid. Umar was the real nasik, the one who having rituals and so on. But Umar, when he walks fast. And he beats hard. And he talks loud. Not like these guys who are dead while they are alive. So that was until the time of Salma. After that, then the people use the word abid instead of nasik. For example, one Shami said, if the people of Medina brag about their abid ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, we brag about ibn, I remember his name, that was living in Palestine in Sham. One who was Makki and then settled in Sham. Was famous for good stand and also confronting the rulers and so on, a good man. In the Good Alphabet, even we mentioned his story. They use the word abid. They started leaving nasik, which is the correct word, or the word of the Quran. What the word of the Quran used in the Quran for these who are with rituals and seclusion and so on. Rahib of nasik. Never abid. Abid is used for their submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for this. This is a reminder for people who are abidin, who are submissive to me. Not the people who have much ritual or no ritual. So this one of the deformation of the language. The same, there are other deformation happened and changes of the language. Unfortunately, later I mentioned the case of nasiha. Nasiha has deformed into, because nasiha originally in the Arabic language means just sincerity, good faith. But because advice or admonition, maw'idah, is supposed to be given in good faith. No, to really guide you. You should give someone maw'idah, admonishment, with the best intention that's for his betterment, for his own good. Otherwise, it's not a good maw'idah. It should be with sincerity. So maw'idah should be with sincerity. They substituted, drop the word maw'idah and use sincerity instead. You meet someone, I have a nasiha for you, I have advice for you. Advice, actually, translation of maw'idah. Not admonish. There is no translation of nasiha. Nasiha is sincerity. Like Saleh telling his people, I was sincere to you in all what I told you. But you don't love sincere people. People, sometimes when I read that, they misunderstand he was advising them. No. He's actually, all what he's doing was out of sincerity, of wishing their good thing, loving them, want their help, want their benefit, not to harm them. But they don't love people who have got good faith to them. They prefer people who mislead them, demagogues and politicians and things like that. Like most human beings through history. Sincere advisor who tell you the truth in your face, which is painful, are not liked. Except by few lucky people. The majority will this make our life miserable. No. We prefer something like Trump who soothe our feelings and lie to us and so on, but hijack our emotion. No sincerity requested. Please fool us. Most people are like that, unfortunately. And that's exactly what Salih was at. Not that he was giving admonishment and advice and writing a memorandum of advice. No, not that. Although he's definitely doing wow, he's doing the explanation, doing giving parable, all of that out of sincerity. That's the meaning of it. So, but the word nasiha became almost until you get a shock. I was shocked when I see the first time the hadith. The whole religion is sincerity, nasiha. And they said, for whom Messenger Allah said, for Allah, how can you have sincerity to Allah? In the sense, do you advise Allah? That's impossible. So it must have another meaning, nasiha. And his messenger, and his deen, and the common Muslim, and the imams. So it's clearly what it means. Pure heart and good faith toward these. You are pure-hearted to Allah. You are sincere in his devotion to him. You are having sincerity to the messenger. You love the messenger. You respect him. You follow him. Sincerity to the imams. You give them a good advice. You serve them with to please Allah Ta'ala, not because they have power. And for common Muslim, you wish the best for them and do everything to do the best for them. That's the meaning. It's not that you're sitting there and writing memorandum of advice and uttering advice. Maybe you're not doing anything of that. Maybe you're constructing machines and so on. But you are sincere doing it for the benefit of the ummah, not just for the joy of construction and to express your skills as an engineer. You have this aspect of good faith. That's sincerity to Allah. And if you have that, then you have the full deen, the full devotion. That's the deen devotion, having sincerity to Allah, to his messenger, to usually translates advice. If you translate the advice, there's a catastrophe in front of you. With this clarify, just another hadith clarify the matter. So this is how linguistic things may happen. Maybe because of mistake, because someone confusing things and so on, and they get settled. Another one, which is that Hilm. Hilm actually is rarely used in Quran because Quran used addressing human that they should be rational. They should be used there. Allah is called Al-Rashid, the fully rational. But the word who encompasses all the issues of rationality, issue of perception, issue of being aware, fully aware consciousness, mindfulness is Hilm. But the Arab use Halim usually more specific, sometimes more specific. That's even at the time of the Quran. Halim meaning someone who controls himself in anger. But this is happening to someone who is fully mindful about the situation and related, so he can control himself. So that the sub-meaning derived from being fully mindful become overriding. So in a translation of the Quran, where the Quran uses in Allah kana haliman ghafura, they translate clement and forgiveness. No, Allah is fully mindful and forgivenessful. That will be a correct translation. The same position where, yes, I mentioned that I can actually go the case. It has nothing to do with the issue directly. Is that few expression and words have been either misused or used in the wrong direction or limited down to a sub-meaning of it while neglecting it. So when we say Allah is Al-Halim, meaning the fully mindful. The result of that he is also clement. But usually Halim and Ghafura. Ghafura is even more than clement. So why mention clement before that? So it's fully mindful, fully rational, but more than rational. Because rationality is just part competence of mindfulness. Mindfulness contains more than rationality. You perceive it by yourself. I am mindful of something, aware about something. It's not only knowing it, putting things right in a rationality, concluding properly, but all this awareness aspect. And for Allah, knowledge is usually not derived by logical conclusions, derived by immediate knowing what is there. So you cannot say that Allah is Ya'qil, but Allah Halim, and He has Hilm, He has mindfulness. He doesn't need the process of reasoning. He knows things by immediate as they appear to Him because He's mindful. So it's more befitting to call Allah Halim, not Aqil. Aqil is someone who binds and connects things in a rational discourse. That's befitting for creative being, not for Allah. For Allah, the word aqil is not good. Although the philosophy is aqil and he's aqil khalis. That's not good. They should use hilm and hilm khalis. But when people started writing philosophy in Arabic, already Halim was already mutilated down to clemency, nothing else. So they didn't find the correct word, they used aqil. Allah is aqil khalis, pure reason, that's what. Is actually pure mindfulness, more than reason. Reason is a subcategory of mindfulness. Yeah.
Okay,
Because
continue.
reason usually connect with the reasoning process, connecting cause with effect. A reason with the result of reason. Something is immediately known by necessity by itself, or something was connected to something else by necessity, and so on. This is the rational process. That's good for creation, not for Allah. Allah knowledge of another type. It's immediately in front of him, mindful of them, and mindful of his own existence, that his own attributes, in a mindful way, not in a conclusive way. It's another category of things. Okay.
That much is clearly evidence in the discussion about al-ilaha, gods, arbab, lords, deen, and tadayan, religiosity. An example being where he, the Exalted, said, "We only worship them because they bring us nearer to Allah." That's 39.3. It is also in the saying, Ahl Taif ya'buduna Allah. The people of Taif worship Allah, and in the saying, An-Nasara ya'buduna al-Masih. The Christians worship Christ. This understanding was also instinctively grasped by the Sahaba and their successors, the Tabi'in, as illustrated in the narration attributed to Ibn Abbas, where he reported, "The habitual wine drinker, if he dies, will meet Allah akin to a worshipper of a wathan, idol."
Okay. Let me just add one further word important جدا, which has been mutilated. The word ulama in the hadith, for example, and the Quran, say, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء, the knowledgeable people. That has been then mistranslated into scholar. That's not a correct translation. Scholar is what the first generation called qurra, the reader, or the people who attend school. That's in the Arabic, the word reader, exactly like in English. They say this guy is reader in the University of Oxford in philosophy, meaning he study philosophy and teach philosophy. That's reader, the same in Arabic. So up to the end of the first century or slightly before, nobody dared call himself alim. Messenger called Mu'adh alim and others, and said the ulama warath al-anbiya, and they will get knowledge. That's what your ulama warath is, the people who are knowledgeable in such a way that they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many qurra are ulama also, but not all of them. So the standard way that the people who study and have knowledge and information and so on, to call them qurra. But that's got extinct. Now all of these qurra, the modern ones since the 2nd century, called alim, so it's not alim. It should be called qari, reader in this discipline. He's reader in hadith, he's reader in this, but that's got relatively extinct. And the word alim was substituted that, which is not a correct one. In the 1st century, it was not used. The rebellion of the great tabi'in and the major scholars of tabi'in against Hajjaj is called Thawrat al-Qurra, not the Thawrat al-Ulama. Nobody dared call it, except Ibn Abbas said, "Ask me, I am min al-rasikhina fil ilm, I am firm in knowledge." Ibn Abbas has the right to say that because he's really the Tarjuman of the Quran. Well, a little bit maybe you should avoid it that way like that, but only the Messenger Allah called Sayyid Abir Alim. Mu'adh is the leader of ulama. This is Alim and so on. But otherwise, what is the Quranic position for these scholars and so on? It's not Alim. Quran does not use Qari, because it may confuse the reader of the Quran only. So made the Mujahid, the one who will wake with ink, the one who write with ink, Ahbar. So we have Ahbar and Ruhban. Ahbar is the scholars, the people of ink, because usually scholarship and reader is connected to writing things and using ink. Habr is the one who uses ink. Habr is ink. Al-Ahbar, the one who people of ink. That's the reason the hadith came, that Yawm al-Qiyamah, the ink of the ulama, not of the Qur'an, not of the ink of the ulama, will be weighed, giving as weight as the blood of the shuhada. Of ulama, not of reader, not of ahbar, unless they are also at the same time alim, who fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other one who don't have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then who are treasure, their ink is wasted. It is not worth even spit or a urine. Will not be weighed by the blood of the shuhada. You have to be cautious about such terms in the Hadith Nabawiyah. Meaning reaching the level of scholarship, being habr and being qari, but connecting you to the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that the knowledge produce something in your heart more than just the bits of information, produce knowledge, and the result of the knowledge in fear of Allah. If that happens, then your ink and what you're doing in scholarship now, we don't have ink, we have a computer entry. Keystrokes, okay, keystrokes will be weighed with the shots of the mujahideen in the battlefield, for example. The same metaphor of the ink of the ulama will be weighed as if it is as valuable as the blood of the shuhada. Obviously, it's metaphorical, meaning these people of scholarship and real knowledge, which goes in the heart, so that the real inheritance of the Prophet ﷺ, they compete and rank with the shuhada. Then they will be even higher than the shuhada because of this fear of Allah based on knowledge. And knowledge is of a much higher value than just dying in the battlefield. In fact, that's high value, but that's much higher. Much higher. Much higher. So aware of that. All the hadith Nabawi talk about ulama, meaning those who have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The others just, like for example, say, أكثر منافق أمة قراء. The most munafiq in my ummah are under the qurra, the scholars. The ink people who are not sincere, the one who don't have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you recognize that, and the Quran does not use neither reader, use ahbar and ruhban. And ulama only in the ayah, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. And in other ayah, الراسخون العلم يقول آمنا به كل من الله, because they are firm in knowledge. They know it's from their Lord, and they're submitting to that. Both the ayat which has qat'i and the ayat were confusing. They refer the confusing to the qat'i and say, the confusing have been by our Lord for very good reasons, all is from our Lord. We don't get confused because we know how to deal with the confusing. We refer the confusing and the multiple meaning to the unique one we establish with certitude. Meaning we start with certitude. And that certitude we will establish. And anything which is doubtful, we measure it with the certitude, not the opposite. We go to the confusing and the certitude we start attacking the certitude because of the confusing issue. That's the way of catastrophe. Following the mutashabih. No, mutashabih should be not followed, should be used, reanalyzed, the various meanings, and then see which one can be justified based on the qat'i. And then you find the way, why it was and why it was mutashabih. And what we mentioned in tafsir, remember why the mutashabih has been revealed deliberately by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that these brains start working. They don't become dull. They have to work and do some work. But the work has been done based on the qat'i, the well-established with absolute certitude. That we start with. And then go to things which may have multiple meanings. And this is the most important issue of qadar. We discussed that also in various issues. So back to the issue. But I think this interjection is addition. It has nothing to do with Tawheed directly, but how sometimes expression Quran, Sunnah, we have to be relatively cautious how they have been deformed or restricted and so on in later usage. So we have to be very cautious in certain critical words to go what in Quran and Sunnah with the Arab at the time, the eloquent Arab. But Quran is even dominant over the eloquent Arab, because what the Quran defines supersede and cancel and abrogate what the Arab were using and put it in the right place. Like the word salah, original meaning is possibly supplication or making dua. But the Quran uses it completely in a different way, in a certain structured way of dua, a structured way of movement and so on, etc. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking that we might be worth stopping here because it's been a couple of hours and we still got
to have here a bit of bonus knowledge in other areas, which I think is of usefulness. So this is one thing which when we go back to Quran and Sunnah, we have to be alert. We should not read the word there the way we read with the meaning which the people from 2nd century onward, that's mostly mufassirin, muhaddithin, fuqaha. They may use a word in a sense which is not that original one used in the Quran. So we have at high alert. We have to be really cautious at high alert in certain things. It's only a few words, but some of them are of striking importance, like the issue of word ibadah. It should have been used manasik, nusuk, sha'air. شعائر, rituals. And that's what they are really. But because they are mostly the ones mentioned by Muslimin as well, the Quran are devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they give the label of ibadah, and then the word sha'air and manasik has been completely lost. Even in Kutub al-Fiqh, they say ibadat and mu'amalat. It should not be the ibadat, it should be a spiritual activity, or should be manasik. الشعائر والمناسك مقابل interaction between humans. A better division is done by Sheikh Taqi when he said things regulating the relation between persons of Allah directly, spirituality, that will be called ibadat, that should be sha'air al-manasik. Things relating a human being to himself, that's manners, etiquette, grooming, making the bed nice, removing the pubic hair, all of that. This is from so the human feel good about himself. Is the way he have relation to himself, groom himself to be more human-like rather than animal-like. Birthing teach, that's all from fitra. This is all related to you, related to you. There's a aspect of ibadah there, or aspect of worship, is that you do it in obedience and following the messenger, and in hoping for Allah reward. That's the only aspect. But directly, it is to regulate yourself by yourself. You make yourself look beautiful. You remove the pubic hair to be far away from the animal level. You eat all these things. You brush your teeth. You have good breath and so on. All of these things, and good care for your mouth and so on. Animals do not have this facility. So like that, it's called fitr as a human being. And then relation to others, this mu'amalat. And there is kind of two parts, relation to the others as a single person, and relation to others as a community. That would be ahkam sultaniyah, government rules and constitution law and so on. That's a better division of fiqh. The future books should be built in that way of redefining. But this is another job by itself, obviously, for the next generation to do. That was only my project in my mind, that since Ibn Hazm is a very good book of fiqh, especially comparative fiqh, although he has his own blunders, definitely. A first step of reading Al-Muhalla and re-editing it and presenting it in a new clothing is that first of all the chapters and Masail had to be distributed under these 4 or 5 headings. And the divisions will not be like that. Like for example, he's doing the old-fashioned division. There's a book called Kitab al-Salah. Another book called Kitab al-Janaiz. About it's a funeral issues. It's a complete book. But this belongs more into issue of etiquette maybe and so on, rather than issue of manasik. Huh? And the thing, so we have to see in which the main category of spirituality, a relation between Allah and His creation, spirituality, things like that, like the modern division of Sheikh Taqi, after making it more precise, rearrange it, and then in every arrangement, then making rewriting it and making comment on improving or discussing or negating what he concluded. That will be really a breakthrough. But this has to be done by someone else. I don't think there's enough life left in myself to do that. Seems to be not conceivable. But if someone work on that, some few scholars of the knowledge and so on, and willing to do the job under my guidance, we may be able to do that as a give it a day per week, and it takes several years. First, because that's available electronically, so the arrangement should be easy. And then reheading, and then we go to the content. I'll go through one by one and see where is his error, or the error is coming because his usul are not the correct one. So start from the beginning, because the first volume was essentially basic rules of Aqidah and some usuli points. Some of them are questionable. Especially the issue of nasakh. He's making major blunders in the issue of nasakh. Major, deadly blunders. We go to our principle of nasakh, which we establish and something will be done really modernization and re-editing of Al-Muhalla. But we have a raw material in front of us and we improve on it. That will be a good way of doing a modern display of fiqh. But this is just a side project if someone really interested. But it needs some work and several years. All right, good. Get back to our say the chapter is finished or the section is finished. Rush.
We still have some way to go on the same chapter, but I think it's a good point to finish because it's going to be going into a bit more depth. It's just basically, overburdening the people. Sometimes it gets a bit much.
Okay.
Okay.
But we did few other additions which are relevant for fiqh, for linguistics, which we gain extra things.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the old halaqas we used to
some
have.
of it can be worked back in the last, inshallah, hopefully the last edition of Book of Tawheed.
Sure. Also, you know, a lot of these, like
to me, maybe in the future, someone will revamp everything and build something more advanced or more new. Yes, but for me, I think the next edit will be just closing the thing. Besides, we have to have a next edit because chapter 10 and 11 and 12, I think, are not included. We have 10 chapters in the Arabic publication, and the 2 other chapters need some major review and adding there. In that process, we review from the beginning and improve on it. Good.
Okay. Just before I continue,
and we have already lined people for that up. We'll set up now the necessary drop boxes and communication and so on with some Arab speaker and Arab reception, inshallah. So that's going on, inshallah.
Excellent. Okay, so next week we'll continue chapter 8, page 79. Also, a lot of these segues, they're very useful. Back in the days, we used to have face-to-face halaqas. A lot of learning was done just from these segues.
Yeah.
Okay. Brother's got a question, far away.
Yeah, it's not related to the dars, right?
Yeah, far away. It's all good.
Yeah. So just a bit. But I was just going to ask the professors.
You're a bit quiet.
Go ahead. So he's disconnected or something?
You still there? Hello? Can't hear you.
Wait for him to come. Maybe something happened with his computer connection. Check if anyone has anything. But my advice, these things are heavy. So don't think that you're listening, that will be, you have to, after getting it downloaded, possibly copy, especially today, we have a good...
I'm back, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my connection was laggy. No, I was just going to ask the professor's view on muta marriage.
We have an Arabic work there. I think it's already published and so on. So this is a very lengthy one. It's a huge one. You can't get it in just a question. What is the question?
If it's
marriage, is it valid or invalid?
Yeah, if it's permissible or not.
Definitely it's valid. No question about that. All of this, we have sorted that in that bahth and show why the first abrogation, why there's abrogation in Khaybar, as in the Hadith al-Bukhari, and then reenacted in the conquest of Mecca, and the new condition, and the reason why it was abrogated first and then reenacted. Because the one abrogated in Khaybar is the Mut'a of Jahiliyyah. Mut'a of Jahiliyyah had other conditions. For example, Mut'a of Jahiliyyah, if you have a time-limited marriage, that wife does not inherit and does not have certain rights and so on. That was abrogated. When it's reinstated, it is only time limit and it is a marriage in all other aspects. So she inherits and so on. So what the Shia have now is essentially the Mut'a of Jahiliyyah revived because they missed these ahadith. That's it. But this is all in this bahth. This is a very extended bahth. If you're interested in that, you have to read it. It cannot be done haphazard and so on. It can't.
Okay. Sorry, you said you've written it in Arabic or it's on YouTube in Arabic?
No, it's written. It's written. Yeah. متى حرمت المتعة. I think that's the title of it.
Could you just say that one more time? Sorry.
Could
you say the title one more time of the
متى حرمت المتعة? When was the mut'ah prohibited? That's a with question mark. That's the title.
Okay, thank you.
And in that main one, there was another surah one called ما ولدتك في المتعة. Asma saying to her son Abdullah ibn Zubayr, because Abdullah ibn Abbas confronted him and said, "You have been born in mut'ah. The first phase of your marriage of Asma to Zubayr was a year or 2 years of mut'ah. Later, it converted in a permanent marriage." And that was a separate research. And of course, a big upheaval. You are accusing us, and this is the narration with excellent isnad. And there's a confrontation about that. People who got beaten up from Zubayr because of that, and their bed shaved, and all of these things. That's all of that with their isnad and the correction of the things and so on. It's unescapable. But that has been weaved in this mata harim al-mut'a. I start with this page, mata walata al-mut'a, then I continue. So that one contains both in one treatise, in one PDF. Mata hurrimat al-mut'a. One was mut'a prohibited. I think it's already in Telegram. If not, it is ready, and I have given it to many people privately also in time past. before publicizing it widely, because they felt it's not an issue, we should get stuck with it and get to fight a war with the donkey Wahhabis about that. But it's so clear, and it's to correct the Shia. The way it's done by the Shia is essentially the mut'ah of Jahiliyyah. Which even there's a narration of Ja'far Sadiq said, the way you described to me, that's a zina, that's not mut'ah. That's not a mut'ah which has been reenacted. But I think the Shia also got it wrong. They said allowed, but they revived the one which of Jahiliyyah. There's no inheritance of all these things. That's not correct. And there's no lower time limit. The mut'ah al-haqiqiyya, the new one, is a minimum of 3 days. And things like that. So it is excluding any form which looks like prostitution and things like that. But this is in the research. So if you're serious, go there and read it and translate bit by bit or see it away. Or get ChatGPT to do the translation for you bit by bit.
Yeah, I'll try and see if I can find it.
If not, I will cause it to be placed once more. But it's complete, essentially. I was intending to, in an appendix, to do issues related to a few other things like my masturbation, things like that, because it's related partly. The same ayah used against masturbation, which is wrong use, is discussed in the appendix, but that may be in another edition. But it's a secondary issue anyway. The mut'ah is really a main issue, an important issue.
Yeah, if you can send it on the enterprise chat, that will be helpful, because I can't seem to find it on Google. But yeah.
Check if it's maybe in the main library. It should be there, I think. I think it should be there. Check it first.
I'll check. All
because
right.
I have to find someone to get it from my library and my computer and put it into place. We can't do it also. I have to check with Okasha to enter my computer and do this job.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else got any questions? Okay, we'll call it a day, inshallah.
And also in that research, confusion about Umar prohibiting mut'ah and not prohibiting and clarifying the conflicting narrations. And we see there's a misnarrated and getting the correction from the Sahaba themselves. All of that is very expansively there. Not haphazard, not like that. Slander, counter slander, Wahhabi and Ja'fari. That's it. That is rubbish. The whole thing there is usually discussed in half a page or 1 page. Does not do the issue justice. It is absolute disgusting rubbish. No, okay. So it's worth looking at if you're interested here, seriously interested. Yeah. What was someone who wanted a question?
Yeah, sorry, you know the narration thing about Mu'adh ibn Jabal on the thing Hadith app. And it does say Dave, I do recollect.
Yeah, read me
bring up the chain. Bring up the chain now.
In which book it is best?
Sorry, it's in Abu Dawud, I believe. Just give me 1 second.
Or Tabarani. Okay.
And in Abu Dawud, this app has been updated, and when you press it, it keeps going somewhere else. Anyway, Hadith reference 3592.
Can you get closer to the mic? It's not very easy to. There's a big difference in sound between you and the dock.
Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna cut it off on the phone. The call. You should be able to hear me better now, yeah?
Slightly.
Come as close as you can, yeah, and carry on reading. And don't get busy with the phone, with the microphone. Come as close as possible.
Should be perfect now. I'll cut one of the lines.
Yeah.
And yeah. So narration chain. They say Muhammad ibn Ubaidullah bin Sa'id, kunya is Abu Awan, lived in Mecca, died 110 AH. Suhba bin al-Hajjaj.
Bin Hajjaj, yeah.
Died 160 AH.
Don't worry about that. Carry on. Yeah. Those all famous ones.
Ibn Umar bin al-Harith. Yeah. So that's the only 4 that's coming up on the app.
That's not good. I want it's not as it's in Abu Dawood. Haddathana, so on. What's the Haddathana? Was it? And ultimately, what's the text then of this hadith? Read me the text. What does it say?
Some companions of Mu'adh ibn Jabal said, when the Messenger of Allah intended to send Mu'adh ibn Jabal to the Yemen, he asked, "How will you judge when the occasion of deciding a case arises?" He replied, "I shall judge in accordance with Allah's book." He asked, "What will you do if you do not find any guidance in Allah's book?" He replied, "I shall act in accordance with the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." He asked, what will you do if you do not find any guidance in the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and in Allah's book? He replied, I shall do my best to form an opinion, and I shall spare no effort.
Mhm.
The Messenger
The
of Allah,
Prophet praised him and so on. No,
Yeah.
that's if you see the hadith very clear, because the last one of the narration chain says from companions of Mu'adh bin Jabal. Who are these companions? That's the point. That's the intifaq. And some, I think in Tabarani, it's a guy called Harith ibn Kada Shami. Nobody knows who is this creator or this creature. Maybe he never existed. So in the Isnad, the four there, Shu'bah from that guy, and that guy from قال بعض أصحاب, some companion of Mu'adh bin Jabal. Who are these companions? And بعض in Arabic could mean only one, maybe two, but it will be maybe not reliable. Who are these companions? He doesn't give between him the guy who was Shu'bah narrated from. Shu'bah died 160, so born so he started hearing from people who were living like, let's say, the Elias he got. He missed Al-Hasan al-Basri, but he caught Qatada. Qatada died 118. So at that time, Shu'bah was sufficiently capable of hearing hadith and noting it and so on, because he's born 90 roughly. So he was 8. So Sheikh must be around like 18, 118, 115. Okay. Then the Sheikh must be, if we give him 80, he must have been meeting he could not have been possibly met Mu'adh bin Jabal, who died the year 20, unless he's over 100. That's impossible. So they're between him and Mu'adh, some people. Who are these people? It shows you clear. There's some fabrication there. Because even the question of Allah, if you don't find the book of Allah, it does not be conceivable, because when in the authentic hadith, well connection, the famous hadith about the fitan and so on, he told Hudayfa when he asked him what I'm supposed to do, what will fitna come after, he said, don't worry about all of these things. تعلم كتاب الله واعمل بما فيه. Did not even mention the sunnah. That's more than enough. More than enough. So in the case of that, it is clearly, it looks like fabricated. It doesn't look like the style of Prophet.
just quickly, I've got the Arabic. The app, they changed the
Yeah.
format.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll try to read the Arabic. It's quite small anyway. حدثنا حفص بن عمر then
Mhm.
عن شعبة
Ibn Hajjaj,
عن أبي عون and then عن الحارث ابن عمر عمري ابن
Al-Harith ibn Umar. This is the one who is also majhul. So is Shu'bah and Abi Awn. Abi Awn is Abdullah ibn Awn, is well established, a great authority, no doubt about it. So Al-Harith ibn what's the name of the guy? Al-Harith ibn?
حارث عن الحارث بن عمرو yeah عين ميم yeah عمري yeah sorry let me get this عن عمري بن sorry there's nothing on the wow ني أخيل مغيرة بن شعبة عن أناس
عن أناس, for people from the companion, and then even that Ibn Akhi al-Mu'ir ibn Shu'bah and Shu'bah are also highly questionable. The whole thing is a mess. Just forget it.
من أهل حمصة من أصحاب معاذ
Ibn Jabal. خلاص, that's clear. From people from Hims who are companion of Mu'adh bin Jabal. Because Mu'adh bin Jabal died in Hims in the year 20. So who are these people? How reliable they? What's their memory? What's their credential? So it's majhul. And said Unas. Unas could be maybe 2 or 3, but does not certify that they all of them are independent from each other and so on, because they are in Hims, so they may have taken from each other. One of them originally did not understand properly, but it smells for fabrication.
Did you use the term majhul? Sorry.
Majhul, yeah, unknown.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So that's what,
but the wording, if you look at the matan, it looks obscure.
Yes, completely. Man, I was just thinking back when I was studying with Tawheed. This is one of the narrations.
And Mu'adh bin Jabal is already testified. Before that, he said Mu'adh is Imam al-Ulama Yawm al-Qiyamah, except the messengers of God and the Prophet. and he will stay ahead of all ulama by a stone throw. I mean, he's very advanced in ilm, combined with khishyatillah, the real ilm. And then, unlikely will ask what will be judged. For example, he said when he appointed Ali to do qada, Ali said, do not tell him what to ask such a question. He told Ali, how can you appoint me? And I have never been a qadi. I don't know how to qadi. He advised him what a qadi should do. Don't make any judgment until you hear both sides in full with all their evidences. Then you become a judge. That's independent judiciary, one fundamental principle of judiciary. That's all what you need. And then say, from that time, I became a judge. Did not discuss the issue of what were ruling. They would be ruling what Allah has revealed, either in detail in Quran or explained by the Sunnah. And Ali was doing that. And I think Mu'adh will be similar. But Mu'adh died very early. We don't know so much of his judgment and his analysis of things. Yeah?
Yeah. Just one other question in related to this. Is there any other text that they use for qiyas?
No. Look at the books of qiyas that people claim. That's their authority. That's the authority they have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because when I started with the part,
and the authorities say there are many Sharia issues which do not come in the Quran. So no, they come. They are basic ruling of permissibility. They have missed that. Plus this faulty hadith, and then build all their like what the famous story of Don Quixote attacking what they call windmills, thinking they are giants. That's it. They attacking windmills which don't exist even. Imaginary windmills. There's no windmills there.
I remember another narration that was used when I think on the issue of Rasulullah Umar al-Khattab mentioned about something, he's kissing his wife, and he said that, does that break wudu? What's it? And he said, he gave an analogy.
No, not break wudu, break siyam.
Okay.
It's not say. See, if you have because think kissing will be usually sucking the tongue and so on, and some liquid will go in your. Say, if you have do what you call rinsing your mouth with water, does it break? Say no. So the same. This is rinsing.
Could that be used by them to establish?
No, it can't be, because this is rinsing. Because Umar is asking something I have swallowed from her saliva or my saliva. It's the same like you're doing madmada. Everyone knows. So he's advised, if it's very hot, do madmada to ease a little bit the feeling of heat if you are fasting.
Especially just
your mouth will be wet, but wetting the mouth eases the feeling of thirst and the sticking of the lips without being food or drink. It doesn't go enough in the belly to be called drink, and nothing comes in. That's the reason if it is food or drink. It has nothing to do with qiyas. It is like
it's effectively the extension of the meaning. It's just applying it in a different way.
Meaning, you should not have asked what happened there, because what break fasting? Eating and drinking and intercourse. That's very clear in the Quran. So you don't need to ask this question. Is that intercourse? Kissing? No. Is it food? No. It is drink? Maybe question, but he knows that the Prophet advised for people who get to their lips sticky because of thirst in hot weather of Arabia, and say just to do madmada and gentle gargling if necessary. But be cautious with gargling, because gargling can get a huge amount of water down inadvertently. So you see, you should, when you gargle and madmada or istinshaq or below your nose, do it thoroughly, except if you are fasting, just to be on the cautious side. But you do it, and in that the mouth will be wet, and even the internal of the nose and going from the throat will be relatively wet, easing the feeling of dryness. That's it. That's not drink. So Umar knows the issue of madmada, because I advised that. He knows that. He say, well, if you did that, what will be that? It's the same. It's like madmada. Did you eat? Did you drink? Did you have intercourse? No. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Game over. That's not qiyas. That's exactly what breakfast. What breakfast? Food, drink, and intercourse. So the people who say, for example, having, for example, an anal enema, for example, do anyone eats or drink from his anus? No. So this is nonsense. Say that's breakfast. So I say, no, if it is only to get constipation away, but if it's have something nutritious, it's not nutritious. What breakfast is eating, drinking, and even injection. Say, injection, if it is having a nutrition, it breaks fast. If it doesn't have, it is not a nutrition, it's eating. the joy of eating food and getting through the mouth. That's akil. Having an injection or having a nutrition or don't have a nutritious, usually rarely injection have nutritious, except a drip. And even that will be for medical reason anyway, and doesn't come through the mouth. It's not eating, it's not drinking. It's wetting, for example, the blood circulation, wetting the kidney and so on. That's not eating or drinking. So all these questions are based on imaginary things. They think, they thought eating meaning getting the food and the nutrition in your belly. No, eating is eating. Nom, 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 and swallowing and enjoying it and getting it in the belly. All this is called eating. Having a drip in your vein is not eating, even if it's nutritious. So all of these speculations they do is based on some kind of mental obsession. Yeah, if you don't eat, then you deprive the body from some nutrition, force it to fast, and you get a benefit of the medical benefit of fast, generally. But that's not, the law is eating, connected with the act of eating, which contains also getting the nutritious in the body. But you may eat something which is not nutritious. You chew something, some grass or something like that, which has barely any nutrition, just fiber. So it's not getting really, it doesn't break the intermittent fast or the fast which regarded medically. Or chew some artificial rice made of plastic. Nobody would do that, or some people may do it. It goes through the belly, that doesn't any. That will break fast because you ate it, you chewed it and so on. Even it has no nutritional value or very limited. And maybe even not breaking the intermittent fasting if you are doing intermittent or fasting for medical reasons. But still, it breaks the fast because it's eating. You have the chewing, you have the swallowing, and you have getting it in the belly. So the rolling is connected with the act of eating. And what is connected with it necessary, and the act of drinking. Having the water in your mouth, getting it down the throat to the belly. Okay, sure. That's it. Not flushing the kidney, which needs, maybe it's a bit dry, need flushing by an intravenous. That's not drinking. That's flushing the kidney with the drip. Has nothing with drinking. And you see, if you get a drip, you notice that if you feel a thirst, you need to take external water. While the kidney is getting the water it needs really for the flushing. So it's independent, I think, something. Oh, that's because of the obsession. They want to dig something where Allah did not. It made it clear. Made it very clear.
Okay, inshallah. If anyone else has any questions, we'll call it a day. Okay, tomorrow, inshallah, 8 o'clock, we'll have a chat.
So all it is refer to some hadith and some issue like that with Umar, Madmada and so on. All of this is faulty. And the Mu'adh is most likely the hadith smells not like the way the prophetic. But Umar hadith seems to be authentic. And he just reminded him, you know the issue with the Madmada, Umar. Does it break the fast? He said, no. So what did you do? Did you eat? Did you drink? Did you make intercourse? No. So it's like Madmada. It's the same ruling of Madmada. Because the breaking of the fast is eating, drinking, and intercourse. Nothing else. Not even have a wet dream. It has to be intercourse. Yeah, that's it. And intercourse, you even know what's intercourse meaning. Penetration, etc. I don't need to go to detail everyone. All of you are adults, you know that. So even it doesn't apply even if some masturbate. That has to be discussed separately. Even Qayyim discussed that on Ramadan and see because of necessity sometimes and so on. He doesn't need this argument. Masturbation is not intercourse. And wet dream is not an intercourse. It forces you to do ghusl, but it doesn't break the fast. Simple. Straightforward. The ayah is very clear. وكلوا واشربوا حتى يحل لكم الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم. النهار is prohibited. Game over. That's it. Fasting is abstaining from eating, drinking, and intercourse. You don't need any qiyas. Anything else is okay, including kissing, including madmada, including all of these things. You don't need qiyas there. Just basic ruling of permissibility. He said what is breaking is these. Every other thinking about sex and ejaculating with that does not break fast. All of these things. It's nice, not nice, that's another issue. But it doesn't break? No, it doesn't break. Clear? Obvious? No qiyas there. It's just a basic ruling of permissibility and universality. And that's what break fast is with these three acts. Clearly speaks the Quran and the various hadith. Some of them connect with kafara, something with like that. Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
inshallah. Okay, tomorrow, same again next week, inshallah, then recording tomorrow, inshallah.
أنتم رؤيت between us إن شاء الله. Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد، وبارك على محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. تصبحون على خير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.